An entitled jerk demands that I allow him to propose at my dinner I'd been planning all year, as he has a ring prepared to propose to his girlfriend that he's been dating for like 1 month, putting me in a situation that honestly is completely unfair because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 31-year-old male, and I host a Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving type dinner every year before the actual Thanksgiving. Family and close friends come over, we do the traditional feast, we play games and have activities, and it is some pretty normal stuff. Well, this year we invited a friend who I will call Jackie for the sake of the story. We've played games with her online for years, but only met her in person this past March, and she actually brought her new partner with her who I will call Mike. Now, none of us really liked him, mostly because he insists on bringing up politics in literally any conversation, but he seemed like a decent enough guy otherwise. For context, Jackie and Mike had only been dating for about a month when we met him, so this is a very new relationship. We invited Jackie to Friendsgiving this year, and we were told that Mike wouldn't make it due to work. So I think to myself, cool, no big deal, that's totally fine. Well, that is until tonight came around. I got a text from Mike. That's right, I got it from Mike and not Jackie. He says he can actually come to Friendsgiving after all, but he doesn't want Jackie to know about it. Then he tells me that he'll arrive at about 6 o'clock p.m. and that we need to be ready to take a bunch of pictures because this moron was to propose to her at my Friendsgiving. Now, here's the thing. Even though we've known Jackie for years, we don't know her super well personally. We rarely talked about our real lives while gaming, and only in the past 10 months has she become more involved in the friend group outside of talking about League of Legends. We also don't know much about her relationship with Mike. I mean, I don't even know if they live together. And again, I've met this guy like one time in my entire life. What really gets me is that he's already taken off work, he bought the ring, made the whole plan, and yet still didn't consult me, and basically just told me, oh, this is what I'm doing at your Friendsgiving. You're gonna be cool with that, right? And he did this as if it's a done deal. You know, a week before our event's gonna happen. Now, Friendsgiving is usually for my immediate family because on actual Thanksgiving, I go over to my fiance's family's house. So it feels really weird to have a guy that I barely know propose at my house to a friend I care about, but don't really know in terms of their own like personal and romantic life. I don't know if she wants to get married. I don't know if this kind of rushed, half-baked proposal is something that she would appreciate. And not only that, but I really just don't want to be complicit in a potentially disastrous moment. Now, I want to tell him no, but I also feel bad because Jackie doesn't have many friends in this state, and her family lives across the country. And I totally understand why Mike thinks this is the perfect setting. There's people that she knows, there's a big gathering, but I think he wildly misunderstands how close we all are and is currently putting me in a super awkward position. What should I do? Okay, dude, you would not be the jerk for telling this guy that no, he can't propose at this thing, because this sounds like a terrible idea. For starters, it kind of sounds like these are friends from Discord or something like that, which don't get me wrong, I've done meetups with friends from Discord before, and it could be a really good experience. But I think the original poster hit the nail on the head, dude. You do not actually know Jackie that well. You don't know about her romantic life, you don't even know Mike that well. So for him to be like, oh yeah, after a month of dating, I would have proposed to her. Like, holy crap, pump the brakes. What are you doing right now? That is way too soon, and I just don't think that's gonna go over well. So if I was in your shoes, I would be spelling it out quite clearly to this guy that no, this is not happening, because this is just gonna ruin the night and it's gonna ruin all of your hard work. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My friend keeps messaging me about 50 times a week, and if I'm being completely honest, I really don't know how to handle it. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I have an old friend who I'm not very close with anymore. This guy is like 39 years old, and we worked together for like a year when I was 18. We don't hang out, I don't really think about him in my day-to-day, and I usually reply maybe once every few weeks. But this guy is constantly sending me messages, and it's mostly Facebook Reels, but it's literally every single day. Sometimes it's 10 a day, and I recently opened up my Messenger and I saw 54 unread messages from him. I haven't replied in like 3 weeks, but he keeps messaging me anyways. And today he sent me a message that said, I don't think you like me anymore. You talk to me like once a month. He's also asked if he could visit me while he's in the area, to which I didn't respond. And he keeps pushing past the hints that I'm busy or not very active on Messenger. For a bit of context, he has bipolar disorder and he can be very intense and emotional. A few years ago when I tried to set boundaries, he told me that he cried in the shower because he thought he was losing me, which made me me feel horrible. I don't want to hurt him or be cruel, but the constant messaging makes me uncomfortable, and I don't feel close enough to him to manage his emotional reactions. I don't want a big confrontation or to send a harsh message, but I also don't want to reinforce this by replying and starting the cycle all over again. I've sent a couple of messages over the past year or so, just saying, hey man, I'm not on Facebook much, or things along those lines, but he just doesn't take the hint to stop messaging. I mean, it is relentless. So seriously, what's the healthiest way to handle this? Is it okay to just stop engaging at all? Should I send like short boundary message? Should I mute him? Should I block him? Because right now I honestly don't know what to do. Holy crap, I would have blocked them the second I saw 54 unread messages, dude. That's obnoxious. I don't care who you are. And you've even tried to like explain to this guy by being like, dude, I don't go on Facebook that much. I'm never around. Like, please stop messaging me. And this guy's not only not getting the hint, but also he's just completely ignoring you. So that's what I would do. I would just straight up block him and move on with my life. Because in my opinion, this guy can hardly even be called a friend in the first place. Today, my manager yelled at me in front of coworkers and customers, all because I moved one of my customers who was cold to a different table. And now I kind of just want to quit my job and find a different one, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So the restaurant I work at has 6 sections. 4 of them are in the bar area, and 2 of them are in cubby areas. Well, I was in cubby tonight, and it was freezing. I understand that some customers exaggerate, but I was even shivering at some points. One of my tables was uncomfortably cold who was sitting at a window seat, and after discussing it with the shift lead and the host, we agreed to move them to the top of the wait list as their food was already in. Well, the bar seats weren't moving, and a table away from the window opened up in the other cubby area, and they agreed to move there. While I was moving them, their food came up, and my supervisor was running it. I then met her, and I asked her if we could please bring it to their new table. Well, she then said to me, "Why would you even move them into a different cubby and not the bar area? What a dumb decision. There's actually no difference between the 2 sections." I told her that it was a bit warmer and away from a window, so that helped. But she proceeded to go on and be really condescending. And mind you, she was saying all of this in front of multiple coworkers and also at the front of house takeout area where people also wait for a table, and we were absolutely packed, hence why I couldn't reseat my table in the bar. Now, she could be very rude and condescending, and at this point, I just want to get done and find a different job. So seriously, am I overreacting? Was it stupid of me to move them away from the window? I'm more embarrassed than anything, and I just don't take kindly to being berated in front of others. What should I do? Okay, honestly, if you do think you need to get a new job, then I would say go ahead and start doing that. But holy crap, would I absolutely be having a conversation with my supervisor about that? Because that kind of behavior in front of coworkers and customers is completely unacceptable. And I don't care who you are. That's unprofessional, that's really tacky, and in my opinion, that is unacceptable. So yeah, that's what I would do because your manager sounds awful and she absolutely needs to be corrected. My boyfriend said that he would consider breaking up with me if I ever changed my appearance in a way that he didn't like. And now I feel like I can't even look at him the same, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I've been dating my boyfriend, who I will call Andre, for a little over 2 years. And this is both of our first relationship. And for starters, Andre has always hated any kind of bodily change. Whether it's tattoos, piercing, dyeing your hair, even getting a hand stamp at a bar, he scrubs it off the second we get home. Now, on the other hand, I'm the opposite. I love tattoos. I have 3 in total. I've dyed my hair ginger and I have a few piercings. Since we started dating though, I've only added 1 ear piercing and changed my hair color just slightly. Whenever I bring up wanting something new, like a tattoo or a piercing, he gets visibly uncomfortable. His voice goes high, his eyebrows raise, and he starts asking, okay, well, how much of a change are you thinking? His facial expressions alone have always felt like a subtle threat to our relationship. If I go too far, he'll stop being attracted to me or even consider leaving me, and that's honestly a big part of why I've stopped changing my appearance at all. Earlier this week, I mentioned that a small mole on my nose is starting to lose pigment, and I brought up maybe tattooing over it with brown ink, kind of like what you would do with a freckle tattoo or microblading. Well, his response was to instantly and firmly say, do not do that to your face. And honestly, that hit me really hard. He didn't even ask if I wanted to do it or how I felt about it, just completely shut it down and told me what to do. Later that night, I texted him and I asked him, if I did something to my appearance that you didn't like, would you break up with me? And his reply was to say, yes, I could see that playing a factor. And when I read that, my stomach dropped. I then called 2 of my friends to make sure I wasn't losing my mind, and they both said that was insane. I ignored him for just a little bit, and when he called back, I ended up yelling at him for almost an hour, which really is unlike me, I've got to be honest. And that's when it seemed to finally hit him how serious this was. He started crying and apologizing, and admitted that he was being inconsiderate and disrespectful. The next night, he told me he realized how entitled it was to act like he had any say over my body, and that he needs to work on his reactions. He said that he understands I'm my my own person and that my choices have nothing to do with him. But I told him straight up that he needs to always speak to me like an equal, and that just because he gets to see my body doesn't mean that he gets to control it. I then made it very clear that if he ever does that again, I am gone. I also told him that I'm not applying to jobs in his area anymore. Someone who would consider breaking up with me over a freckle doesn't deserve me moving states for them. Now, we are still together, but right now I feel really grossed out. I don't want to be affectionate or sweet towards him, even though he's apologized and seems to be reflecting on what he did. I feel like he just doesn't deserve that from me right now, but I also feel mean with giving him nothing to work with. So seriously, how do I forgive him? Will that natural affection come back with time? Is it harder because we live far apart? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think it would be way too soon to move in with this guy because from the sounds of it, this guy really seems like he wants to be controlling of what you do to your body. Whether it's tattoos or piercings or pretty much anything that you already do, this guy really wants a say in that. And that, in my opinion, is a giant red flag. So I think eventually you could forgive him, but also, I think you have the right idea. Moving in with him now would be way too soon. But hopefully with time, things will kind of like go back to normal because regardless, your boyfriend was being very toxic and very disrespectful. My parents are making me feel awful about wanting to move out just so I can get married and have my own life. Because with all the health challenges they have going on, they're making me feel so bad that right now I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 30-year-old female whose parents have some really bad health challenges. One parent has brain cancer and the other has a heart condition. They are currently both stable, but we have been told that the timeline for the stability of the brain cancer is unknown. Hopefully, she will have many more years of being stable and relatively healthy. She has unfortunately had some vision and hearing loss from radiation damage, which has been incredibly heartbreaking, and she currently is able to work and function well again as she is stable right now. I was living away from home for years in my 20s during university, and then I returned home. I temporarily took a leave of absence from my job to support with caregiving, which was right after my mom had brain surgery. It has been a difficult few years with their health challenges, and I began experiencing burnout with trying to juggle so much at once. Not to mention that I also work in a field that I love, but is also incredibly emotionally taxing. For a while, I was bursting into tears every morning in my car, all before going into work, as I had nothing left and I was running on empty. Well, with that in mind, I'm going to be getting married soon to someone I love deeply and someone who's my best friend. But my partner and I are unable to buy a house close to my parents, as housing is very unaffordable where we are. We're wanting to move a few hours away where we can buy a home and start a life together. But I feel so much guilt leaving my parents, and I'm worried about them not having my support. I have a brother who lives at home and is unemployed, but he does not help out in any way that's practical to even begin to support them, despite myself having had many conversations with him about needing his help and support. I've had many people tell me that my parents feel proud when their children make a life of their own, but this is simply not true for me. My parents have expressed very clearly that they don't want me to move out or even leave home. They've even gone as far as to say things like, "You are going to fail if you leave and try and start a business. You're throwing your whole life away. Oh, I guess you don't care about us after all. When you're not here, we have no joy in our lives." When I try to talk to them about the possibility of myself moving, they become really dysregulated and raise their voices in anger and fear. I know that to move forward with my life as an adult with my partner, I need to move away, but I'm feeling such immense guilt when I think about doing so. I debate sacrificing my life just to care for them, and some days I break down into tears feeling like every answer is wrong, and I feel really selfish, like I'm causing harm to people that I love for wanting to live a life of my own. So seriously, what should I do here? Because right now I'm honestly at a loss. Okay, dude, your parents are guilt-tripping you hard. Just so you can understand this, the only reason they want you around is because you take care of them. I guarantee you that if your brother moved out, they would not throw a fit at all. They would be like, okay, see you later. They wouldn't be like, oh, there's no joy in our life when you're not here. Which, by the way, that's a weird thing to say, and honestly, they need to get like a hobby or something. Because holy crap, like, get a life, dude. What's going on right now? But like, dude, you're getting married soon. You want to start a life together with your future spouse, and it's like, what, do you expect me to live at home with you guys? And all of us just live together and take care of you? Like, in my opinion, I think your parents are being irrational and just incredibly stupid because they're out of their minds if they really think you're going to live at home for the rest of your life and pretty much sacrifice your future just to take care of them. It's really toxic that they think that, and it's awful that they try to gaslight you because in my opinion, that's exactly what's going on here. A pair of entitled guests get humbled in the funniest way possible, as they really thought they could get away with their terrible attitude towards me, while also being ignorant to the fact that I'm one of the most well-known people at the restaurant I work at, because once they discover the truth, they shut themselves down in a way that honestly was incredibly funny. Here's how it all happened. I work in a restaurant that does jazz nights a few days a week, and we have some wonderful bands who come to play. As we get so fully booked, we only take reservations for food and request that our guests order at least a dish and a side for the free jazz performance. Now, it was a very very busy Friday night. I'm talking every table's full with no room at the bar upstairs. We're even turning people away who don't have bookings. I then hear that a couple of the band's friends are coming to sit in my section. However, they may not order food. My first interaction was when they had just sat down and my manager got them watered. I walked by with stacks of plates in my arms and they impatiently waved in my face and asked me if they can order wine with me. Well, with a sweet smile on my face, I looked down at my plates and held them out slightly to show them, and I said to them, yes, I could do that shortly. I went straight over and I took their wine order, and when I did, I was met with such an attitude, as if they had already decided that they were going to have a rubbish day. So they went ahead and they ordered their cheap wine. I went to the bar to find the wine itself, but the bar is flooded with checks. I then went back down to help my other 5 tables, and everyone else was loving me and enjoying their evening. I'm walking by with more plates when the husband asked me with annoyance where his wine is. I then explained that I went to check, but the bar is very busy, and they had other drinks to make as well, but I will be sure to check again very soon. So I go over with the wine. It was not that long of a waiting period, but that is just kind of how it goes when it gets busy. Now, just for some context, I love helping people have a good time, and my name is all over the reviews, to the point that my manager said that he's sick of just seeing my name there. I'm excellent at my job. I take it very seriously, and I am still a bit autistic, and sometimes I don't know what to say in the middle of a confrontation. I've even had lunch with a band a few times out of work, and they even performed at my wedding. Anyways, back to it. I then ask if they want to taste the wine, and as I'm pouring it, they ask in a very exacerbated manner whether or not I'm new at this restaurant. I then say, well, I'm actually one of the original people here. I don't suppose you've heard of me. And then I told them my name. Well, it's here that their faces drop and they say, yeah, we have heard of you. Well, I responded back by saying, well, it's a pleasure to meet the both of you. Now, they still had food menus and cutlery, but at this point, I had had enough of their misery. Well, to this day, this is still the best thing I've ever said to a rude table, and my autism was holding onto the phrase whining and dining in my head. So I just asked them, okay, so are we just whining tonight? They didn't give me any more attitude from that point on, and even tipped me appropriately. So for anyone in the service industry, don't pander to these types of people. They simply are not worth it, and they honestly are just miserable people to be around. Okay, I really like how the original poster handled this because seriously, these people were being very rude. You easily could have caught an attitude right back with these people and fought fire with fire, no problem. And if I'm being honest, I think you would have been completely justified. Like, these people came in with a bad attitude right away. They were impatient pretty much the entire time, and they even had the audacity to be like, oh, you must be new here. And trust me, as someone who's received that kind of criticism before, it's always so toxic and entitled. Like, dude, you probably could not do my job even if you wanted to, let alone put up with someone like you on a daily basis. But for me, the best part about this story is that these people absolutely knew who the original poster was. They realized very quickly, oh wait, this is someone who actually is all over the reviews. They're well known for customer service and getting things done, and the fact that they knew exactly who you are and they're like, oh my gosh, it's you. Like, that's really funny to me, and I just love that so much. So good for you for kind of like putting them in their place in like the nicest way possible, even though in my opinion, you easily could have snapped at them and I don't think anybody would have complained. My mom keeps taking my shoes and clothing without asking me, and I just now realized that a pair of my shoes are gone. And now I'm on the verge of setting a boundary with my mother because at this point, I simply can't take it any longer. Here's what's going on. I'm in my mid-20s, and my mom, who's in her late 40s, has always had a habit of taking my clothing, my purse, my shoes, all without even asking me first. And no, she's not borrowing from me. She's actually going into my closet and helping herself. Whenever I say it bothers me, she calls me stingy and bougie, or just acts like I'm being dramatic. For a bit of context, we are black, so streetwear at any age is normal, but at some point you either buy your own or let it go. Also, she absolutely buys herself things all the time, so it doesn't feel like a money issue. It feels more like an entitlement or poor money management and the mindset of what's yours is mine because I'm your mom. Now, I don't borrow her things at all. We don't have the same taste, and I haven't been in her closet for anything besides like an emergency ever since I was in high school. She also doesn't take care of my stuff when she uses it. For example, she borrowed a brand new white purse and returned it with permanent ink marks all over it. She wore down a pair of Jordans I got for my birthday, and speaking of that pair, she kept taking them so much that I eventually just let her have them because I was over it, and at that point they'd already been worn down anyways. Now here's where the current issue comes into play. I only own 2 pairs of sneakers in total. I'm not a sneaker girl at all, so the pairs I do have really matter to me, and I immediately notice when something's missing. Well, tonight I saw an empty space in my closet, and I realized that my Jordan 1s, which is the very first pair I ever bought myself with my first real job, job, I realize they are gone. They're sentimental and I barely wear them, so there's no way I misplaced them. And given her history, she's obviously the culprit who took it. I'm planning to text her tomorrow and ask her if she has them, get both pairs back, and then tell her that I don't want to share clothing or shoes with her anymore at all. I'll even go as far as to say, well, if I might have anything of yours, let me know so I can give it back to you, even though I know for a fact I don't have anything that's hers. I just think this is so ridiculous. Like, I don't have any little sisters or sisters at all for that matter, so you would think I wouldn't have to deal with all this. But here's the thing, I already know she's gonna laugh and shrug it off or call me stingy again, but I'm honestly tired of feeling guilty for wanting my own belongings respected. So am I in the wrong for finally setting this boundary with my mom? Has anyone ever dealt with something like this before? Because right now I feel very lost and I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, this is so annoying, it's not even funny. I absolutely hate people that steal, and the fact that your mom's doing that to you is incredibly unfair. Like, seriously, you're not doing that to her, so what gives her the right to do that to you? It simply doesn't make any sense. And I just love the fact that you know her response, because she is probably gonna call you stingy and be like, oh, it's not that serious. But like, dude, if you started taking all of her crap, I'm pretty sure she would be like, oh, you can't do that. Don't take my stuff, I worked hard for it. And sure, that's gonna be her excuse, but the second you try to use that for yourself, she's gonna sit there and be like, oh, I can't believe you. I'm your mother and I get to have anything that I want of yours. So no, there's nothing wrong with setting a boundary like this and being like, hey, you can't take my stuff anymore. You steal it, you don't give it back, and if you do give it back, you basically ruin the product. And that is incredibly unfair for you and you do not deserve that.
An entitled high school teacher demands 300 new followers for the school's Instagram from his students. And if they don't get these followers in the next 2 weeks, their entire class would fail the course. Here's what happened. So my daughter is a freshman in high school, and as an elective, she joined the enterprise class. It's part of the Future Business Leaders of America classes, and it really should have been an easy A. They run the school store and make the school shirts and merchandise to raise money for the FBLA. The teacher is an overweight ex-college football player and the assistant high school football coach. He thinks he's pretty high and mighty, but is always unshaven and looks like he's wearing the same clothes for days. Most of the assignments were easy things, like testing to see if they could run the computer for making shirts, how they handle the cash register and money, as well as other easy things that we expected. My daughter has had straight A's her entire life, but this guy grades assignments by the class, not by the student itself. So if a couple of kids screw up, the whole class has a lower grade, which sucks for the kids trying to keep high grades. 2 weeks before the end of the semester, and the teacher had not entered any grades since September. Even though the kids had no type of lessons or previously covered the subject, their final grade was to get the school's Future Business Leaders of America Instagram 300 new followers. This was a pass-fail as a group grade for all 3 periods of students that he taught the class. It was totally out of left field as they hadn't learned anything about social media in the class, and my daughter risked failing her final based off the performance of a bunch of other kids. I looked and the school Instagram account had been active for 5 years and only had about 300 followers, yet they expected to double it in just 2 weeks' time. I waited to see if he was being serious or not, and it came down to the deadline of when they were supposed to have the followers, and they had only gotten like 20. So I decided to spend $6 and I bought them 500 followers just to prove a point that it was a crap assignment and it could easily be cheated. In 30 minutes, they had over 800 new follows that were obviously fake accounts. They had no posts and barely even had a profile picture. Well, the teacher came to class and said that since they didn't have the followers, he was giving them all a B. He admitted that he had not even checked how many they'd gotten, and he was just automatically gonna give them a B. Well, as you can imagine, the kids got mad, and they showed him that yes, they got the amount that he wanted. Well, the teacher didn't question it and was completely caught off guard. In fact, he was so happy that he gave a 110% as the final grade for all 3 class periods. So it turns out I spent $6 just to work around this complete buffoon, but as a result, I got 70 kids a 110% score on their final class grade. Wow, that teacher has no business even calling themselves a teacher. Like, seriously, what are they doing? Do they really think that a bunch of high school students are suddenly in about, 2 weeks gonna get 300 new followers for their stupid Instagram account? Like, honestly, what was he thinking? ranking. That is such a stupid precedent to set, and it completely punishes students who work hard at their grades. So honestly, to the original poster, I don't blame you for buying those followers, because that teacher is a complete moron, and he has no business even pretending to try and be a teacher. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I entered one of the worst nightmares I've ever experienced after I started listing my deceased friend's collectibles just to help his wife pay for the medical expenses associated with his passing. And the resulting entitled jerks made my time selling stuff on eBay an absolute living nightmare. And I'm honestly so glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. Here's what happened. So this happened a couple of years ago, but I was just listing some stuff for sale on eBay, but it brought about a literal nightmare of entitled buyers. A few years ago, a close friend passed away from cancer. He was a gamer and had been collecting everything under the sun related to it. A year or so later, after his wife and our gaming group got to pick from his collection so that we could pick the games that reminded us of him, she wanted to start selling the items to help pay off some of the remaining medical debt. I spent hours pricing items and sorting what would go to the local gaming stores, as well as a local used bookstore and eBay. While she and the group did the local stores, I started listing items on eBay. Most sales went through just fine, but then I listed an original James Bond metal lunchbox, including a thermos in near mint condition. And this is when some entitled people basically invade my life. This guy online submitted an offer that was almost half the base listing price. So I counteroffered as I had seen what these were selling for. The next thing I know, he's messaging me with a sob story about how he really wanted it as a big James Bond fan, but couldn't afford the asking price. I know this is a common scam, so I checked his profile. And guess what? He is a reseller on eBay, so I would be selling him the lunchbox only for him to turn around on his own account and listing it as much higher as that seemed his history. And while he was whining about how high the price was, someone else used the buy it now feature, so he ended up losing it. He then started spamming me that we were in negotiations and that he had first dibs, but that definitely was not going to happen, so I ended up blocking him. The next thing I know, he tried to file a complaint with eBay, but they apparently turned him down as he had not actually bought anything. The second scenario had me leaving eBay for almost 2 years as a seller. There was a sealed pack of Pokemon cards that was well over a decade old. This set potentially had cards in it that were worth $50,000, so I sold it as sealed rather than risking opening it and finding common junk cards. Within an hour of listing it and getting bids, I had over 30 messages telling me the selling price was too high, while also calling me a scammer. So to prove that I wasn't a scammer, I needed to direct sell to them specifically, and it needed to be at a much lower cost than the current bid. Now, I came close to deleting the listing, except the money that was being bid would go a long way to helping my friend. Over the next week, I got so many more messages like that, and even worse were like people wanting to buy it for $10,000 if I did a direct sale and closed the eBay listing, which is like, come on, no one's actually gonna fall for that. But overall, this was really stressful, and I'm just so glad that it's done. Wow, I can't believe people were literally trying to scam you out of your money. In case you're wondering why it's like really bad to do like a direct sale outside of eBay, well, the reason is that people can easily scam you. Like they could fake information that says a payment's coming your way or something like that, or they use PayPal and then once they get the item, they just do a chargeback. Like it is super sketchy to go outside of eBay to do that kind of thing and not have a listing website like eBay to try and back you up. So yeah, good for you for getting this taken care of, but also I'm really sorry that you had to go through this, because I'm sure that losing your friend like that was definitely not easy, and these entitled jerks were clearly making your life a living nightmare. I'm pretty sure that my father-in-law is blaming me for my fiance's career change, and now at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I met my fiance when he was in the United States on a student visa. I'm white and he's Korean. Now I was a bit worried that his parents wouldn't like me. I definitely watch way too much 90 Day Fiancé. I met them through FaceTime countless times and they really liked me. I would say his mother liked me more than his father. I mean, his father is very rigid, but he is a very nice man. When I met them in August, it was all amazing and I felt so welcomed, accepted, and loved by them. It was a bit different from my upbringing. I love my parents, I really do, but I was raised with my mom emotionally manipulating me. I can even tell that my mom doesn't like my fiance or has her concerns since we're processing the K1 fiance visa. I understand that every parent has their concerns, but the way she addressed them to my fiance was just completely unhinged. unhinged. I had many therapy sessions after her blowing up on my fiance over the phone. At that point, I wouldn't have blamed my fiance if he wanted to break up over my mom's unhinged reaction. But you know what? He didn't, and we talked it over. I mean, he is such a good person, and I just don't deserve him. The only reason that my fiance was in the United States was because his parents wanted him to study in the US, and that is how we met. My fiance was in the United States for 4 years, and my future father-in-law even worked in the US as well, and he loves it here. My fiance comes from a very wealthy and established family, which is great, but my future father-in-law always reminds me that I'll be set for life, and my future baby will also be set for life as well. I was raised always being worried about money, so it feels weird that I'm marrying into a rich family. The other day when I was hanging out with my future in-laws without my fiance, surprisingly, it wasn't really what I expected. His parents told me that they have concerns about my fiance moving to New York due to the fact that there's no Korean diversity, as well as some of their safety concerns. And I was honestly surprised by this. My fiance never told me they had any kind of concerns, and I explained to them that where we're going to live is a safe area, and there's many Korean areas near us. My future in-laws know that I don't want to live in South Korea due to the language barrier, but I would love to live there in the future when I do a better job at learning the language and we get the visa situation sorted out. I want our future child to experience life in South Korea and to celebrate their Korean culture. The whole conversation was so awkward, but I made sure to answer all of their questions in a respectful manner and to listen to all of their concerns. They told me that they are parents and they are allowed to have their concerns. I agreed and told them their concerns are very much valid and I'll do anything to help them feel comfortable. I also expressed to them that I will give their son an amazing life in New York. Later that day, his dad told me that he's not happy that his son switched majors for his new career. I told him that I understand and that I support whatever my fiance wants to do as a career, as well as whatever makes him happy. I also mentioned that my fiance is really brilliant and that he is meant for his new career. His dad told me that he put in so much time and effort for his son to be in the career he picked for him. I reminded him that as his fiance, I want him to do what makes him happy and we all need to support him. I talked to my fiance afterwards and he was shocked. He did not expect that his parents had these concerns, and he said they should have told him and not me. He told me he loves New York and prefers it over South Korea. He even thinks that New York is much more diverse, and he doesn't like that South Korea lacks diversity. He even said he feels there's more racial problems in South Korea, and no one, even in South Korea, even acknowledges that there's race problems there. He said to me numerous times, not just over what his parents said. And as for his major and career change, he says he has a new passion for this. Also, my fiance had a health concern, and his past career would not be good for him. That's why he switched, and he's more than happy now in his new major. He seems so passionate to be a data scientist, and he's going to be so good at it. I swear, my fiance has the best brain to be a data scientist. Well, the other night, I went out to dinner with my fiance's dad and his friends. My fiance was running late, so I agreed to meet him there. My fiance's dad got very drunk, and he went off to say how his son could have been the perfect pilot while emphasizing the words, "my son the pilot," almost like a declaration. I just sat in my seat quietly, and then a little while later, my future father-in-law's friend told me I should be an English teacher in South Korea. I smiled politely and I said, well, maybe in the future. Then my future father-in-law drunkenly told his friend how beautiful I am and that he's giving his son to me so I can marry him. He also took my hand and told me that in Korean culture, the love a father-in-law has for his daughter-in-law is the most important type of love. He continued by telling me that he loves me so much, and I just sat there and I was like, oh, okay, I love you too. Now, I'm shocked by all of this. I don't know why his parents aren't communicating to my fiance the concerns that they have. Like, why does it always have to go to me? Especially when my fiance has no idea they even had these concerns. Also, I feel like they blame me that he changed his path, but yet again, my future father-in-law still loves me. I am just so confused by all of this, and I seriously don't know what to do. It honestly seems like the dad is really overbearing towards his son's career, like he clearly wanted him to be a pilot for some kind of reason. Maybe that's something the father always wanted to do in his life, but he couldn't do it, so he tried to force his son to do it, and now he's disappointed by that, or something like that. I don't know. But I can totally understand where the original poster's coming from, where it kind of seems like he's inferring that this change in career path is her fault, which really is not fair in the slightest. But more importantly, that last conversation with the father-in-law was really creepy. He was making these remarks about how he loves her so much and all this other weird stuff, all while grabbing her hand. Like, I understand that he was was drunk, but that was really weird in my opinion. So I think overall, maybe just keep checking in with your fiance, especially if all of these concerns keep coming up, as well as these weird remarks from the father-in-law, because this is definitely something that he needs to be in the know about, and I think it would only cause more problems if this was kept as a secret. An entitled businessman is mad about the wind blowing in his face, and somehow this gets turned on me after I make a joke. And I've never met somebody so gullible and angry at something so mundane in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was working at my very first job, and it was in the 90s before the term Karen got its slang meaning, but trust me, the behavior is still the same. I was a teenager doing janitorial duty at a local deli. It was winter, or at least as wintry as the city would get that I used to live in. Mostly, to be honest, it was a lot of wind. In fact, on this day, it was in excess of 40 miles an hour, but I still needed to go out and sweep. I still can hardly believe that in 40-mile-an-hour wind, people will still sit outside and try and eat. Some are unfazed and others hate it the entire time, but they decide to persist for some reason. It's honestly all beyond me. Dirt and trash is blowing around, and the sweeping was mostly grabbing trash that gets caught and just to dust away dirt that piled up in random spots, with tables needing to be wiped down regularly. So I was on my third sweep of the outdoors eating area, and some guy in business clothes that were wildly flapping in the wind was outside trying to have lunch. It kind of looked like he was summoning some mysterious power or something dramatic like that. As I made my way past his table, he pointed into the wind and shrieked out loud, "Where is this wind coming from?" I looked down the street and pointed in the same direction. I then asked him, "You see that giant fan?" Now, there actually turned out to be a tall antenna with one of those drum things on it in that direction. In surprise, he yelled out, "What?" And I think he may actually believe me for just a moment. Then he scowled and repeated his question. I can't remember the words I used, but I gave him the textbook definition of wind that is literally memorized in my earth science class. He then says to me, "Don't get smart with me." After he told me to not get smart with him, I just said, "Okay, so the wind is actually coming from that giant fan over there. We pay a fee to the city for it." As I walked off, the guy yelled out, "Why would you do such a thing? I'm gonna complain about this." Now, for kicks, I told my boss about it right afterwards, and he just laughed and said that he's heard that one since he was my age. So it honestly baffles me that someone can be that angry, but also be that incredibly gullible. Yeah, that guy was not only mad at the wind, but he seriously thought there was a giant fan pointed in his direction that was causing all the wind in his general direction. It also couldn't be more obvious that the original poster was definitely joking. Like, of course there's not a giant fan blowing wind in your face. That would be insane. So yeah, I just think this story is really funny, and it kind of proves that people will complain about anything if they get the chance. My father was a terrible drunk growing up, and it caused a lot of issues in my adult life with anxiety as well as several other mental health issues. And now that I'm an adult and he is sober, his girlfriend is trying to force me to forgive him just so we can all move on. But regardless of all the steps he's taken, I still am not ready to forgive him, and as a result, I've cut contact with him altogether. Here's what happened. So my dad used to be an alcoholic. He has recovered now, but he used to do and say some pretty messed up stuff to my mom back in the day. They had a really toxic relationship, but now they're divorced. Now, he didn't do this to me or my sister, but he also didn't seem to care about how this would affect us at all. I grew up in a very cold house where you constantly had to walk on eggshells not to make him angry. It gave me really bad anxiety and other problems in my adulthood, so I ended up distancing myself from him. Now, my dad has a new girlfriend and he lives with her, and she seems like a decent woman, but she is very pushy. She keeps on guilt-tripping me into forgiving him because according to her, he's sober now and he's trying so hard. Now, my problem with this is that although I'm really glad he's sober and happy now, and I genuinely hope it stays that way, his sudden change of character never came from fatherly instincts to not hurt his children. It had to be a strange woman to come and tell him that his ways were wrong, and only then did he listen. And honestly, I just can't get past that. So I cut contact with him entirely a few days ago, and what do you know, now I'm getting long blocks of texts from his girlfriend with all this guilt tripping again, because according to her, he is such a good man who needs warmth as well, and that maybe I should try harder. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? She also tried to pull the classic phrase of, "Oh, but he's your father." And I thought to myself, well, I'm his daughter, and what did he do about that? She then called me selfish and very spoiled. My last straw was when he chose to spend Christmas with his new family, namely his girlfriend and his daughter, yet again. Now, I have to be honest, when I cut contact with him a few days ago because of that, I was really harsh, maybe even a bit too harsh. I told my dad and his girlfriend what I think about them, and some pretty terrible words were definitely used. Not to mention that he was hiding his girlfriend for a long time before I found out about her myself. And I understand, I mean, sometimes you don't want to introduce your dates to your children just because you're not sure of them. But when I found out about her, he was already building a house for them. I mean, what was that all about? I still don't understand why he would still keep her such a secret. Now, my sister did know, and she didn't tell me, but honestly, I understand her. She's young, and she's only 18 years old, and she probably felt like she was between a rock and a hard place. So clearly, my scars run very deep. So now I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong, or if there's anything that I should have done differently. Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, in my opinion, from the outside looking in, it definitely makes sense as to why you cut this guy off. It seems like he's done some really shady things in the past that you just can't quite get past, and I don't blame you for still holding on to that weird childhood that you had. Like you said it yourself, you grew up in a home that was really cold. You had to walk on eggshells, and this really affected you into adulthood. Not to mention the fact that he hid this girlfriend from you, and he was building a house for them when you found out about them in the first place. So it really seems like he's just pushing his first family to the side, and it's almost like he's trying again with this new one, all while still trying to like keep you out of the picture entirely. I mean, he did spend Christmas with his other family instead of you after all. And sure, he's sober now, and that's fantastic. Like legitimately, that's a really good step in the right direction. But it literally doesn't sound like he's done anything to fix his past mistakes towards you. But instead, it's like his girlfriend is like, oh, come on, he's sober now. Why can't you just forgive him and move on? It's like, lady, you were not there. You don't know what it was like. And the person you know now is definitely not the same person that the original poster grew up with. It's also like a really big red flag, in my opinion, that the girlfriend is doing all the talking instead of the dad reaching out directly and saying, look, I'm sorry. I want to try and fix this and make this right. But instead, he's going through his girlfriend as some kind of like in-between, and instead of having any kind of like meaningful conversation, the girlfriend is resorting to guilt tripping and almost trying to force this like forgiveness on the original poster when it's like, wait a second, I'm definitely not ready for that. So truly, I don't think you're in the wrong in this scenario. I think there's a lot of nuance in what you're dealing with currently, and hopefully with time, all of this can eventually get better. My entitled aunt demands that I take out my nose piercing as she claims that I'm being a bad influence on the children at our Christmas party. But I decided that I was not going to take that sitting down, so I went back at my aunt in a way that she probably never expected. Here's what happened. So a few days ago, my family met at my great-grandparents' house for a family Christmas celebration. My great aunt was there with her grandson, his wife, and their child. And let me just say, this particular aunt is always causing drama in the family. We'll call her Rachel. Rachel is not her real name. My dad took me to get my septum pierced for my 18th birthday early in 2023, so I've had it pierced for a while. I've only had the plain silver horseshoe I got back when it was first pierced for a while, but I recently got a new horseshoe piercing, decorated with a bee on one end and a honeycomb on the other. It stands out much more than the other one, so I guess Rachel finally noticed during our celebration. I was sitting on the stairs with my brother as always. Rachel was sitting on the floor across from the stairs with her great-granddaughter, who we will call Sarah for the sake of the story. Sarah is not her real name, and two of my younger cousins. She stared at me for a while, which I assume was because of my hair, because she's never liked the fact that I shaved the sides and got an undercut, but instead, she asked me if I had my septum pierced. I said that I did, and she simply asked me why. Before I could even answer her and give some kind of answer along the lines of, well, because I wanted to, she said, you know, they say that a woman gets her septum pierced so her husband can attach her to a leash and drag her around by it. And she actually said that in front of the three younger girls in the room. My aunt and uncle, who were sitting on the couch off to my left, were shocked. Since none of us wanted to cause a scene, we kind of just laughed it off. I was a bit snappy, and I said to her, well, mine is a horseshoe, not a ring, so it doesn't matter. And then the topic was dropped for a while. Later, after we all ate lunch, Rachel cornered me by the bathroom after I washed my hands and demanded that I take the piercing out because I was being a bad influence on poor Sarah. Now, here's the thing. Sarah was too busy playing around in her new princess dress to notice anything anyone else was doing. So that is honestly just a complete lie. I'm a very anxious person normally, but this jerk of a lady has had something against me and my dad basically my entire life. So I was sick of her garbage. I told her to back off and to stop judging me and my decisions when she's the one that screwed up her own marriage so much that her ex doesn't like being referred to as her ex because it connects him back to her. Well, needless to say, she definitely did not like that answer because she gave me some nasty nasty looks for the rest of the afternoon, but I didn't care. I'm already planning on getting some more nose piercings, and her stupid ideals are definitely not gonna stop me. Honestly, I commend the original poster for standing up for themselves and saying, look, just because I have a piercing on my nose doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It also doesn't mean you're a bad influence on any children around you. Like, seriously, that doesn't make any sense in my opinion. Just because someone looks a certain way or has piercings or tattoos, or maybe their hair is styled in a way that you don't like, doesn't mean that they're being a bad influence on anybody. Maybe that just means they're expressing themselves in the way they see fit, and in a way that they enjoy and they want people to see. And on that note, I don't think there's anything wrong with the original poster having their septum pierced. It literally is nobody else's business, and if you don't like it, you can look away. It's okay. And I think the original poster has it completely correct. These really are stupid and outdated ideals in my opinion, because I feel that if you're judging someone based on the way they look, and you're deciding whether or not they're a good person based off of like a piercing or something like that, then if anything, you're the jerk if you do that. Because outward appearances like that or style choices are just not a determining factor of if someone's a good or bad influence. Because I've met plenty of people in my life who don't have any tattoos or piercings, who are some of the worst people I've ever met in my life, and I can say that confidently. And for this aunt to make that judgment call and be like, you're a bad influence on this kid, that in my opinion just doesn't make sense, and not to mention just downright rude. So honestly, I think the original poster handled this situation really well, and they fired back at them in a way that really shut this lady up. And hopefully in the future, she won't be so judgmental about somebody's appearance. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mother has pushed me too far and has completely ruined my New Year's Day by sending awful toxic messages to me through my family group chat. And now I'm at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. So for a bit of background, my relationship with my mother is extremely complicated. Growing up, she did so many awful, cruel things to all of us, and these are things both mentally and physically. Now that I'm older and after lots of therapy, I've realized that she was the problem, and it wasn't actually because I was the worst person to ever exist, as she made me feel. So fast forward to now as an adult with my own family, and I'm doing much better. My husband and I have a great relationship, and I truly love him and my beautiful son. We also have a sweet puppy, and we have our first house. But I've had one of the toughest 2 years of my life. After multiple miscarriages and a difficult pregnancy, I had my son and also got my dream dog. Some people will get this and some won't, but my dog is my world, my solid through all of this difficulty. And well, he passed away suddenly this summer. He wasn't even 2 years old, and he passed away in my arms. If you've ever had to hold the dog you loved like your own child as he passed away in your arms, then you'll understand the trauma that it causes. I was very dangerously depressed, and after therapy and antidepressants, 6 months later, I was finally feeling happy again. Like I could smile, and maybe there could be a son again. I've had a good few weeks. Well, today, I woke up to some awful messages from my mother. At just 1 in the morning last night, she had responded to a Happy New Year message I posted in our group, sharing a picture of myself with friends, clearly showing us in company. She told me to have a lovely night and that I looked great. Then something changed. Between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, she sent me a load of awful messages, saying how she was done with me, how awful I was, and how she's devastated I didn't call her for New Year's. And this was honestly all out of nowhere. I've been so good to her despite the history, but this Christmas I didn't spend it with them. I wanted to spend it with my own family, and I told them well in advance. They agreed that it was a lovely idea and said that they were happy for me, but clearly that was not the case. Now my whole New Year's Day was spent so furious about this. I want to leave the family group, and I want to cut ties because I can't do this anymore. She is so awful and then guilts me into feeling like it's all my fault. I genuinely feel like I hate her. But the thing is that I live in a small country where people don't just cut ties with their mother without there being a very public and well-supported reason. I want to set boundaries, but then I don't want to be the reason my son doesn't see his grandparents. I also love my extended family, and they won't want the drama. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, that sounds like a really awful situation. What started out as a message of like love and happiness quickly became something that clearly you're probably used to. And that is honestly so unfortunate because it sounds like your mom is awful. Like she treated you and your sister like garbage growing up, and now, even as an adult, that type of behavior is still happening. And that is seriously so unfair. Now, the original poster doesn't go into specifics about what country they're from, so there might be like some kind of like local culture that I'm just not aware of. But I know from my perspective as someone from the United States, if my family or extended family or anybody was treating me like that, I would not only leave whatever group chat you're a part of, but I would also really distance myself from the person who's treating me that way. So it really calls into question why you would want your son anywhere near your mom. Like, sure, you want him to have a grandmother growing up and all that. I totally understand where you're coming from. But in my opinion, that's a privilege that your mother can only experience if she cleans up her act. And her cussing you out and saying all these horrible things, all in like a family group chat, that's just really toxic and really weird. And that's behavior that personally I would never tolerate. So honestly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with this, especially with all the rough things that have been happening for the last 2 years. Because your mom is being crazy toxic right now, and you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for keeping a straight face when a gym teacher tried to embarrass me over a scheduling mistake? Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of backstory, this happened back around the early 2000s when I was a high school junior or senior in the Midwest of the United States. The way that physical education worked at my school is that you had to take 4 semesters, and 2 of them were in your freshman year, and they were separated between boys and girls. So there were 4 classes during each period: freshman boys, freshman girls, upper class boys, and upper class girls. They also had a coach assigned to each one. The first day of the semester in PE was a meet-in inside the big gym for orientation. On my schedule, it had it listed as Physical Education F with Coach K, and this would happen during 3rd period. Coach K is not actually this person's name. So it was the first day of school, and I was just an unpopular, average 17 or 18-year-old male who honestly was just trying to not stand out. When I arrived, I just sat in the bleachers and talked to my friends. A few minutes later, one of the coaches said, "Okay, we're gonna get started. Look at your schedule, and if you have Coach D on your schedule, line up in this first cone. Coach J is gonna be the second cone, Coach K is at the halfway line, and anyone who has me, line up here." So I got in line, and I was in front since I was about 3 feet away from the half-court line. Shortly after I got to my spot, I noticed that behind me was all the upper-class girls seated behind me on the bleachers. I could hear them talk and giggle about me for a bit, and I had a feeling that this moment will be embarrassing and will haunt me for the rest of the semester. This didn't feel right, so I tried to replay the last 3 minutes in my head to figure out where I messed up, because I was sure that he said that Coach K had the halfway line. Then I heard Coach K start off with his loud drill sergeant voice. He said to me, "What are you doing here? I think you're in the wrong line. Aren't you supposed to be with Coach J?" I tried to talk to him and be like, I'm not really sure. But Coach K interrupted me. He said, "I am wondering if you're up to something. I cannot morally, ethically, or legally allow you to be in this class and share the locker room with the rest of the girls here." Now, the whole time, I was just trying to keep a straight face and stay as calm as possible. So I calmly said to him, "I'm not trying anything, I just did what you said, here." And then I handed him my schedule. He takes a look and his face goes from having a big, cocky smile to then having one that was full of confusion. Coach K said to me, "Wait a minute, that's my name on there, and you're on my roster." He then tried to embarrass me again. "Didn't you notice the letter F on your schedule and wondered why it was there? You're bright, you should have spotted that." I responded by saying, "I figured the letter F was there to stand for the fall semester." Now, at this point, I can hear the girls laughing and enjoying every moment of this exchange. His face went from smiling to annoyance, and he called the other coach to explain the situation. After a minute, he comes back and says to me, "Okay, you can go with Coach J, and when he's done with you, meet up with me and we'll go to the office to get your schedule fixed." Now, I have to say, walking down the hallway with Coach K, we did end up having a laugh about it, so everything was cool. And just to clarify something, I don't think Coach K was being a jerk. I think that he thought the situation was funny and he tried to roast me for just a little bit. To be honest, I always had a sense of humor about myself, and I can take it, and I laugh about stuff that is far worse than what he did. After that, I had a few other students ask me about what happened, and I just told them that the schedule was screwed up. The story did get spread around the school, and it didn't ruin anything anything for me at all. I mean, a lot of people thought it was funny, and a few people said they even had more respect for me, all because I embarrassed Coach K just for a little bit. This story's great in my opinion because something similar to this happened to me when I was in high school, and let me tell you something, I know exactly how that embarrassment feels. So good for the original poster for standing up for themselves and not allowing some teacher to walk all over them. I'm not sure if my restaurant job is a good place to work at anymore, because right now I'm starting to realize several red flags that are popping up, and it's making me second guess if I even want to work there any longer. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a hostess at a casual pizza restaurant, and my job kinda sucks, but I want to know if there is any red flags in this job that I might be missing, because for the past year, I've been feeling really suspicious about it. First of all, I wanted to be a server when I first applied, and they made me a host because the general manager thought I was too shy to be a server, and I needed to work my way up to serving and open up. It's been almost a year and I'm still hosting. Is that weird or is it normal? Because I've tried to smile and be louder and stuff, and they still think I'm too quiet, and customers have been rude about it, and it's annoying. I don't want to change my entire personality for a job I'll only have temporarily. In terms of side work, it honestly takes way too long most of the time, and people ask me why I'm still there. I have a salad bar to fill up, and if it's not filled up perfectly the way they want, I can't leave until it's full completely. Some nights they make me stay till the restaurant closes at 9 o'clock, even though I was scheduled to leave at 8 o'clock. I know us restaurant workers don't leave exactly at our time that we're scheduled, but I'm over here leaving a whole hour and a half every night. I think it's kind of ridiculous, and customers still come in and ruin the salad bar. Also, my coworkers and the customers keep complaining about how I do my job. They sometimes even try to call me disgusting or unsanitary in the way that I clean things. It also seems like, and maybe this is normal for hostesses, but the servers have a bad attitude with me, and sometimes I felt like they thought I was really stupid. I'm also really bad at phone call orders, and they never really properly trained me on how to do it. They only showed me how to do it once and then expected me to just know. They also wanted me to just answer the phone and put in phone orders, even though I'm not really sure of how to use the point of sale system. I always avoided doing it, and I was scared to do it because I was scared of customers getting mad at me, all because I didn't know what I was doing. The place also looks dirty to me, and it's an old-fashioned restaurant that's been in business since the late 1950s. Roaches are crawling on the buffet bar and flies are on the salad bar, especially in the summer. And of course, the bugs and flies don't come in a lot, but it happens. The place always has a leak, and the air conditioning is bad, and it's never fixed. Now, to end things off, today when I was working earlier in the day, multiple ovens were not working, and only one was, and it was barely functioning. Pizzas were taking forever to come out, and customers were complaining and really angry. Meanwhile, the servers and managers were getting yelled at. The general manager was saying don't call him on his day off, and the associate manager just canceled the ticket to whoever was complaining so badly. It was just ridiculous to even be open in the first place. They didn't have enough dough to make pizzas either, and the general manager and the associate manager just didn't care. They wanted to stay open and just keep trying to fix the oven. I mean, the general manager wasn't even there. The associate manager did eventually come in and tried to fix it, but when my shift was done, it was still the same. Pizzas finally came out, but I mean, it was just so stupid how the managers just didn't care. The associate manager just kept saying, well, it is what it is, and it's like, what are you talking about? If the ovens aren't working, then we really should close. Because now employees are getting yelled at, and they just didn't seem to care in the slightest. The manager that was getting yelled at just walked out, and that's why the associate manager had to come in. Also, customers were walking out, and since I'm the host, they told me to tell customers that were walking in about the oven issue, and I was honestly scared to do that because customers would have gotten mad at me, but I mean, I had to do it because it's either that or else they would have gotten mad while sitting down, waiting, and not knowing. The entire situation was absolutely ridiculous. If the restaurant is going to be this unorganized and careless, I question if I should work there any longer. Also, one of the servers was in tears and was talking about quitting. There is also times where I come in and the sheet that should be made for me to sit customers in certain sections is not made. So sometimes I don't know where to sit customers. I mean, that's weird, right? But then they have the audacity to make me feel like a hot mess that doesn't know what they're doing at times. And it's honestly not fair. I've also seen a good amount of people quit after a few weeks or months of working there, or just get fired in general. I mean, nobody sticks around. They also throw in that we are a family, and that's a line that gets thrown around sometimes. And I'm pretty sure that's a big red flag. So honestly, after everything I've said, is this just normal restaurant stuff? Or is this place just one big giant red flag? It is my first job, and I've been thinking of finding another restaurant or another job outside of the restaurant since it is just a temporary thing for me. I just got the job because I needed the money, and this is the only job that would accept me. Plus, me wanting to try serving and my general manager won't let me do it is what's really kind of frustrating to me. I talked to them about it, and they say they will someday, but they're still working me up to it, and I just feel strung along. Plus, I want to be better at socializing and not be so awkward socially, and I thought serving would help me out with that, but maybe I just need to find another job, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, based on what you described, this job sounds like a mess. Like seriously, this place is full of red flags, and you identified quite a few. For starters, it's not totally unusual to have a restaurant that is really high pace and high energy. It's also not unusual to have customers that just straight up suck. Like some of these people are just terrible people, they come in to eat and they're gonna treat you and everybody else like garbage. And that's just the way it is in the restaurant business. There's not much you can do about that, and you kind of just have to deal with it. Also, when it comes to like taking phone orders and using the point of sale system, I think you could like pull your manager aside and be like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing and this is really a problem. And I think with practice, you can eventually catch on to it, but those few things are like the only things about this restaurant that can possibly be managed, because everything else is like a walking hazard. I mean, there's roaches and flies all over the place, and we're talking like around the food. Like this place does not sound clean at all. And based on what you've described, the managers just gave up. They literally don't care. They're nowhere to be seen. The general manager didn't even come in when all the ovens broke, which by the way, they really should be there to coordinate that. And also the other manager just walked out, with the associate manager basically not really wanting to do their job either. So from the top down, there's like no leadership, nobody knows what anyone else is doing, and it honestly all sounds like absolute chaos. And more so than what you would normally experience in a restaurant already. Like waiting staff as well as like the people in the back cooking the food, everybody across the board is always busy, they're always hustling, and they're just trying to get their stuff done. And while it is a little bit of chaos, it is controlled chaos. It might seem like nobody knows what they're doing, but normally people are like on board and they do their job. But what you've described is like the complete opposite. The management doesn't care, there's health code violations, the equipment is breaking down, servers and other staff have terrible attitudes towards you and everybody else, and it sounds like the turnover rate is absolutely through the roof. So to answer your question, is this place just a walking red flag? In my opinion, it absolutely is. Like for starters, this general manager is never gonna make you a server. I'm just gonna say that outright. He keeps saying that they'll get to it eventually because he is stringing you along, hoping that you'll just leave him alone so that he can focus on other things. Like he does not care about your career advancement in the slightest. And if you're the newest one in the restaurant experiencing that, then you can bet the person who's been there for like 5 years, they are also running into that brick wall as well. But the one line that I think really made my skin crawl is when the manager said that we are a family. Like that phrase is like the biggest red flag, because most times that phrase is used like a weapon, where management will guilt trip you into doing stuff and giving up vacation time just so you can cover their shifts and they can go off and do whatever they want. Because for the record, no, you are not family. You are coworkers and that's it. You are there to make money and make rent. That is it. It doesn't matter how many friends you have there, they are not family, and that job is not your whole life. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be finding another job. This work environment sounds incredibly toxic. It sounds like a nightmare to deal with, and I just don't see this as anything more than a dead-end job. An entitled couple make my restaurant job a living nightmare, cursing me out as well as falsely accusing me of having an attitude with them. And this is all because I didn't give them exactly what they wanted right when they walked in. And I've honestly never been treated this poorly ever in my 6 years of working in restaurants. Here's what happened. Okay, so it takes a lot for me to cry in the walk-in at this point, but this got me really bad. This is quite possibly the worst treatment I've ever had after 6 years of working in restaurants. So last night I was hosting and managing at the restaurant I work at, and I saw a couple walk up, so I headed towards the door to greet them. Unfortunately, our host stand that has a sign on it saying wait to be seated is outside the building, and it is very tiny. So a lot of people tend to completely miss it and walk right in and choose to ignore it because it's getting cold and they don't want to wait outdoors. Now this I am used to. The woman in this couple opens the door and grabs a menu from the server stand and goes back outside. So I go out the door and I say, "Hi, how can I help you folks?" To which she says to me, "We're just gonna sit right over here," and motions to the fire pit waiting area. I tell her that we don't see people there as it's just for waiting, but I can get them seated on the heated patio since they have a dog. She gives me a look and says, okay, with a tone that was really rude, but I try to brush it off. I take them to the heated patio and say that they can sit down and I'll bring them menus and water as I point to the two-top table. There is another party on the patio that also has a dog, and I hear the man comment to the woman about their dog potentially freaking out. I come back with the water, menus, plates, and setups, and they're sitting at the table on the other side of the patio that is currently set up for 8 people. I place the items on the two-top and I say to them, "So I will actually have you folks sit right here so I'm able to fully seat this patio." To which the woman rudely says to me, "No, we have to sit over here because there's another dog over there." Now at this point I'm feeling defeated. So this is the only time I can see where they might have thought I had some kind of attitude, but I just softly said okay and brought their stuff over. I try to move a couple of tables around so I can still have some room for other parties that need or want to sit outside, but that's when a man stands up and I say to them, "No worries, you folks can sit right there. I just need to move a couple things around so I can have room for other parties." But this guy then says something that honestly blew my mind and really caught me off guard. This man says to me, "Actually, we're leaving because you have a terrible attitude and we do not feel welcome here." And when this guy said that to me, I was honestly shocked and immediately started shaking. I said something along the lines of, "Sir, I'm sorry. I promise I'm not trying to have any sort of attitude. I just need to optimize seating. I'm just doing my job." The woman then stands up and says, "That is a garbage apology. You've been a giant jerk ever since we walked up." Now, for reference and as a side note, they said several swear words at me, and I have never been cussed at or called a name like that ever in my life. Then the other party sitting on the patio chimed in and basically defended me, saying that they heard everything and I had no form of an attitude, and that it's absolutely uncalled for to use profanities against me. They said that they were in the wrong from the start because they disregarded the host stand. The woman fights back and says they need to stay out of it, while also saying, "We are from out of town. We have never been here and we did not know there's a host stand." To which the other party said, "Well, we've never been here either, but we still know how to read." At this point, I'm just trying to get these people to leave because the man is standing outside the gate of the patio, just absolutely berating me even after I apologize for something I didn't do. And I asked them to just go ahead and leave. And the other party is still trying to defend me, and it feels like all too much, and I know I'm about to cry. He finally gets in his stupid Tesla, and then they leave. The other party says they're so sorry that just happened to me, and I thank them for sticking up for me and apologize that they had to witness any of that. Thankfully, my general manager is also there and witnessed the end of the situation through the window, so she comes with me to walk in and tell her everything that happened and assures me it is not my fault. And I thought that maybe this would be the end of it, but trust me, these people go even further. Those people call and complain to her, again, even though she knows I didn't do anything wrong, and then proceed to leave a Yelp review, which, of course, leaves out half the story and any mistake they could have made, saying they needed to stay away from the other dogs on the patio in case those dogs aren't friendly, even though I overheard them say that their dog might freak out, which also is like, come on, have some common sense. Don't bring your dog to a restaurant if it can't behave. The past month has been one of the most difficult I've had in a while, battling chronic illness through the holidays, then getting sick again, and then working doubles back to back. Once I get back from dealing with all of that, I don't understand how people can be so entitled and talk to someone that they don't even know on the first day of the new year. I'm just feeling so defeated with humanity and how unfair we get treated as service workers, even though we're doing our best to keep everybody happy. Yeah, that couple was just completely out of line. They were massive jerks to you and you did not deserve to get treated that way. And the other group that was on the patio with them, they were completely right. They were from out of town just like this couple, and they were still able to follow procedure and wait for the host and pretty much do everything they were supposed to. Because it really seems like the couple you had to deal with, who were just determined to cause problems, literally did everything wrong almost on purpose. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, and hopefully nothing like this ever happens ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for still withholding all of the presents I bought for my family, all because of the prank gifts they got me and my girlfriend? Because even though I told them that I don't want any pranks on Christmas Day, they decided to violate violate that and do it anyways. And right now, I'm super mad and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so in the past couple of years, I started making good enough money that I bought a house, and I still have plenty after the monthly bills. My family have all been pranksters and at times entitled my entire life. But Christmas Eve, they took the cake. I was no contact with them for several years, but they convinced me to reconnect after I moved closer. Now for gifts, I got them all good stuff. Stuff like tablets for the kids with built-in DVD players, sports memorabilia and camping stuff for my dad, brother, and uncle, specific antiques, jewelry, and appliances for my mom, my sister-in-law, and my aunt. And I decided to bring my girlfriend with me, as what little family she has are just completely horrible. So she was delighted to spend Christmas Eve with my family. Everything was going smoothly, and I warned my family, no pranks on me or my girlfriend at all. They swore none would happen, but they could not resist. We got attacked by silly string from multiple fronts, and even though that stuff reeks and it gets everywhere, somehow we powered through that. But then came the gifts, and I wasn't really expecting much, but none of them even tried. I got dollar store cooking utensils and a pair of insanely ugly holiday socks that I did confirm were also from the dollar store, and I also got a pink hat, and that was all just from my parents. They all kept snickering and recording me as I unwrapped random junk, one of the presents being a used mirror to a car that I no longer own. And the one gift there to my girlfriend was a bottle of fart spray. And so at that moment, I told them that I had had enough, and that they'd agreed to have no pranks. Well, long story short, they weren't just gag gifts. They were the only presents there for us. And at that point, I had had enough, and I just started gathering up all the presents that I'd bought. They all freaked out and demanded I give them back, but I told them all that they didn't change one bit, and they could kiss all of that stuff goodbye. So we bagged everything and then we stormed out. The family kept calling and messaging me that I'm being greedy and I can't take a joke, and that they couldn't think of anything to get me, while also stating that the kids are crying. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Seriously, I don't think you're the jerk in the slightest. I think the way that these people treated you was really toxic and uncalled for, and this is all after you basically spelled it out that no, you don't want any pranks. You don't like them, you don't want them, and you wanted this Christmas to just be a genuine moment for you and the family that you're just now reconnecting with. Like the fact that they would think this is okay behavior to do, and basically put like no thought into any gift they were gonna give you after you probably spent all this money to get gifts for all of them, that is seriously so disappointing, and honestly, I hope you're able to get your money back. Like a prank is only funny if it's appreciated by everybody involved, and if it's not mutually appreciated, then guess what? That's just bullying. These people literally bullied you and your girlfriend in a moment where you did not want to be bothered. You wanted a genuine Christmas day, and these people just completely ruined it. So with all that in mind, I don't think you're the jerk, and honestly, if I was in that scenario, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for picking a revealing bridesmaid dress in order to get one of my bridesmaids to drop out of my party? Here's what happened. So let me just say this has been a long time coming. My soon-to-be husband has a sister, and we're gonna call this sister Megan for the sake of the story. Megan is not her real name. Now, Megan and I do not click very well. I am polite, but I wouldn't say that we are friends. I felt that I was forced by his family to make her a bridesmaid or she will be sad. Now, I'm gonna be blunt. Megan is fat and very insecure about it, and this has led bridesmaid dresses shopping to be a nightmare. I could never find something that she wants that my other bridesmaids as well as myself would also like. So I gave everyone two options to vote on. Option one was getting a dress that can be styled multiple ways, or picking from a collection so everyone matches but they will need to pay for it. Option two was that I will buy everyone's dress, but I would choose the dress and that would be my final decision. My 5 bridesmaids voted and option 2 won. So I picked out a blue strapless dress with a mini slit. I really liked it and I knew that Megan would have an issue with it. I sent a picture to all the bridesmaids and confirmed everybody's sizes right before I ordered it. And this is where it all blew up. Megan was angry I picked a revealing dress, and this resulted in an argument where she thinks that I'm a huge jerk, but I told her she can step down if she has an issue with the dress. She tried to get the family on her side, but everyone knows I gave them options, and they had watched me struggle to find something that everybody wants. Now, for the record, she voted for the option where I pay for the dress, and I truly did not ask her to be my bridesmaid, since she and my mother-in-law announced that she was one of my bridesmaids at a family gathering. The only way to keep peace with the whole family was basically giving her what she wanted. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, that last little part honestly kind of blows my mind. The original poster didn't even invite Megan to be a bridesmaid, but instead Megan and her stupid mother is like, oh my gosh, Megan's a bridesmaid. And it's like, what are you people doing? This is not your wedding. This is my wedding. You can't just make that kind of announcement and then ambush the bride and be like, yeah, Megan's gonna be a bridesmaid, right? This really felt like some kind of mafia shakedown, and that's just not fair. But at the end of the day, this is your wedding, and you gave all of your bridesmaids a choice on what kind of dress they would want. And this is the option that the majority agreed to, so guess what? That's what we're going with. So in my opinion, if Megan voted for you to buy the dress, then she has no right to throw a fit over what you picked. She can either deal with it or she can step down. Those are basically her options. Her insecurities, in my opinion, are not a part of the equation. Because again, this is your wedding. You decide what happens and nobody else. And if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would let the insecurities of this Megan lady try to dictate what you can or cannot do at your wedding. My sister-in-law announced her engagement shortly after mine and wore an exact replica of my ring as an engagement ring. And right now, I can't help but feel that she's copying me and my husband, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so my fiance Steve asked for my hand in marriage, with our wedding taking place this summer. Naturally, we are very excited, and we have been for the past few months. We've been together for 8 years, and have gone through college together, traveled the world, and have cultivated a large but close friend group that we're very happy with. He has a sister who has always kind of felt like a one-upper to him. In the past, I've tried to be the voice of reason. She was kind of lonely, didn't have many friends, and only one past painful relationship. So we have tried to include her, patch up the relationship, and so on, but it never really became a close relationship. The reasons why is because they're always looking back. She either acts jealous towards me, or if he announces anything special, she has to try and one-up him and be the center of attention. He says it has always been this way, even back when they were children. Now, there is this weird unspoken competition between her and everybody else in the family, where she is always trying to belittle another person or steal the show. Needless to say, it has become quite annoying, but so far neither of us have lost their temper with her. A few days ago, at a family get-together, they were drinking wine and cheering, and his sister and her new partner of 1.5 years suddenly announced their engagement out of nowhere, seemingly just shy of a month after moving to the city together. Now, we are happy and we're smiling, and we're trying to push away the weird gut feeling that comes creeping up. But then we both catch a glimpse of her ring and suspect that they copied our ring. After a while, it sunk in. It is an exact copy of the engagement ring her brother had carefully picked out for me. We tried to take the high road and congratulate her, but soon thereafter, we left for our house. In the past few days, both of us have been very upset. We've been disappointed and angry, and we are also weirded out by it and incredibly put off. I am trying to contain myself. I am telling myself that it's only a materialistic thing, and if she's found happiness, we should be sharing that. But on the inside, I am fuming, and so is my fiance. And at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I can definitely understand where the original poster's coming from. I mean, here you have this woman who announced her engagement right after you, and then her ring is exactly like yours. So I can completely understand why you would be like, wait, what is she doing? Because it really does seem like she's trying to one-up you and your husband. And if she really is trying to do that, that's just like super creepy and super weird. But with all of that in mind, I think it would be way worse to say something about this and try and like draw attention to it, as opposed to what I feel is the smart route and just focusing on your own wedding and your own thing. Because maybe she is copying you. Maybe she's doing this just to annoy you, and she's stuck in this comparison game that you are definitely not participating in. And if that's really the case, where she's trying to be like in competition with you or something like that, then that is completely on her and that has nothing to do with you. Like, she sounds a bit unstable if I'm completely honest, and it kind of sounds like your husband and yourself are like the only people that really picked her up. So maybe that's why she's trying to copy you and try and like one up everything you're doing. Like, hopefully it isn't, because if that is the case, that is really weird. But regardless, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would not make a big deal out of this, because I think drawing attention to it is only going to cause problems overall, and I can only imagine that would be an absolute nightmare to deal with any kind of fallout. My job is absolutely obnoxious, as I am so sick of dealing with customers who expect me to read their mind when they're trying to find an item that they don't know the name of. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I want want to ask a question. What is it with people not knowing the name of a product, but then expecting us as the people who work there to know exactly what they're vaguely describing? Now, I work in a general store, and if I had the brain capacity to have extensive knowledge on every item we sell, I wouldn't be stocking shelves for a living. So anyways, this lady stops me in the store and asks me where the crackers are. Now, that's not my department, so I search it up on the system. As I'm doing so, she points to this other worker and says, "That boy right there told me where they were and he was wrong." But I tell her, "No ma'am, they were exactly where he told you." It turns out when she asked where the crackers were, she meant an entirely different item that's in a different place. I had to figure this one out as she had no clue what they were called. So I tell her where they are, and then she tells me to fetch them for her and find her in the checkouts. On top of that, she gave me instructions on how many packs to get. She stated that if they have the 6-pack, I should get 2 of them, and if they have the 12-pack, I should get 1 of them. But the funniest thing about this is that she literally had to walk past them to get to the checkouts. Like, this isn't my job description. I am not your personal servant. I help people getting items if they physically can't get them, but she very much could, and they were en route for her. So it's this weird mix of being rude, expecting us workers to read her mind, and being mad that we can't do that, and then making me run around doing her shopping for her, just to then hand deliver them to her for literally no reason. It's honestly really annoying. I also had someone ask me to tell them where juice for babies was, because she wanted a very specific one, and I tried explaining that if I don't have a name or any other description of this specific item, I literally cannot help her. I went through all the juices that's marketed for kids, and not a single one of them was right. I tried explaining that I can't just search up baby juice because nothing would come up, but she just kept staring at me waiting for an answer. Older people do the same thing with printer ink, and they expect me to know what printer they have. Then they start pointing at printers and screaming, "It looks like that," even though all the printers look like that. But overall, it's just super annoying to deal with, and I'm so tired of having customers that think I can read their mind. Yeah, I can only imagine how frustrating that must be on a daily basis. Like, you have people walking up and being like, "Find me the baby juice, I need it right now." And you're like, "Lady, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as baby juice." Like, I know what you're trying to ask, but unless you've got like a brand name or something, I've got nothing for you. So I completely understand where the original poster's coming from, and hopefully this job gets better sooner than later. 2 years ago, I won a huge amount of money in a settlement, and I'm essentially retired at 31 years old. And right now, no one in my life knows anything about it. Here's what happened. Okay, so I can't get into specifics due to the terms of the settlement, but I got more money than I'd ever dreamed of having. Enough to where I would never have to work ever again. I quit my job and invested the bulk of it, and the investments paid off, and I essentially made nearly 6 times that money in the last 2 years. Now here's the thing. No one in my life knows exactly how well off I am. My immediate family and friends know that I received a settlement, but not for how much. Now that the pandemic is over, I spend my time traveling, while my accountant and my broker handle everything else, and the money just keeps growing. I grew up pretty poor, and was poor until said settlement happened, so it's still all very new to me. I've been so blessed, and I'm so grateful to be in the position that I'm in. I've made a lot of anonymous donations to various charities I believe in, and I have seen firsthand what they've done to change lives with money that I've sent them. I've tried really hard and succeeded at keeping out of the public eye, thankfully, but I'm honestly not sure what to do with the rest of my life. But I know I'm not going to be stopping here. I don't plan on telling anybody in my family, and I even bought a modest home with cash, as well as a new car, new clothing, as well as a few odds and ends like a new phone. But outside of that, I don't appear as wealthy as I really am, and my family thinks I'm a day trader for a living, which is mostly true. And honestly, I really hope to keep it that way for the rest of my life. Wow, good for the original poster for basically being loaded. And I think the original poster probably already knows this, but seriously, don't tell anybody about the money that you got. If you want to see the dark side of people, just admit to family and friends that you're loaded and you have a lot of money. Because I think we've all been on the internet long enough where we've seen all kinds of stories of people like winning the lottery, telling their friends and family about it, and then eventually they lose everything. But it sounds like the original poster is a lot smarter than that, and hopefully they're able to protect their money throughout the rest of their life and not have to deal with anybody who would want to try and take that from them. An entitled old man blocks traffic and refuses to move up his car so that I can properly get out and go to my job. But after waiting and honking our horn for several minutes, things escalate to the point where this old man gets out of his car and backhands me in the face, supposedly because I don't respect elderly elderly people. Here's what happened. So this happened to my partner and I in the spring of last year, and the security guards at my place of work still giggle about it to this day. So I'm a cleaner for a mall, and there is nowhere to safely park for me to get out when he is dropping me off to work in the afternoons, except for this one set of doors, which is super convenient for me because it's the closest entrance to the security office where I have to sign out my keys, which also leads to the area that I work in. But it also happens to be the sketchiest entrance for the whole building. The area to park is just a little pull-in loading zone that's about 6 car lengths long. Most of the time it's full of cars, so my partner gets over as close as he can and throws his four-ways on so I can quickly get out and go inside. Well, this day in particular, a transport truck that I assume was making a delivery to one of the restaurants inside decided he was going to park there instead of going to the loading dock in the underground parking. As we were driving up to pull in ahead of the transport, the car in front of us pulls in. But instead of pulling up all the way, they parked right in the middle, making a space large enough for 3 small cars taken up by his Honda Civic. So at first, my partner just sighs and stops behind the transport to let me out. But the traffic was very heavy that day, so he had to pull over so close to the running transport that I could barely open my car and was instantly being blasted with the hot air from the engine. So my partner tells me to stop and beeps his horn at the Honda. The old man in the driver's seat whips his head around, gives us an evil death glare, all before turning back and not moving an inch. So he beeps again, this time gesturing with his hand out the window for him to pull up just a little bit. We have a 2-door Mini Cooper S, so all he had to do was roll up his idling car 3 or 4 feet and we could easily squeeze in. But the guy literally doesn't want to move, so we decide to wait. But no one is getting in or out of the car. He is literally just sitting there. So my partner beeps again, gesturing with his hand, indicating that he should move up. If the space was big enough, we would have just pulled up in front of him, but it was just a tad too small of a space, and the traffic is whizzing by so fast and heavy that it would be a feat to even pull back on the road at this point. But this time, both the driver and his passenger, whom I'm assuming is his wife, just turn back and give a scrunched up stink eye, but still don't move. I told my partner to just give up and started attempting to squeeze out of the car when he gets fed up with this entitled jerk and holds down the horn as hard and as long as he possibly can. And I'm talking like a good 1.5 minutes at least. He then opens up his windows fully and starts yelling at this guy. He says, "Move your car so that my wife can safely get out and go to work." Finally, we see movement, but it's not the car moving up. It's the old man getting out of his car, screaming at us as he's stomping over. My partner at this point was not backing down. He told the old man that he needs to move his car up a bit because I can't get out against a running transport. But the old man doesn't seem to care or even listen. He instead starts screaming through the window about how my partner is a jerk and that he is waiting to pick up a disabled person, so he is not able to move his car, while also saying that my partner has no respect. The argument goes back and forth without going anywhere. So out of frustration, my partner throws his smoke out the window as he's about to squeal away, but the old man is still hovering his face back and forward in front of the window. So when my partner flicked it, he tried to throw it at an angle on the front of the car, but it ended up hitting the inside rim of the door and bounced towards the old man. This caused him to full out rage and even try to punch my partner in the face, but he clipped his hand on the half-open window instead. He continued to swing, but this gave me that split second to hit the power windows button to roll up. So now he's just standing there repeatedly punching the driver's side window, screaming something about how we have no respect for the old. Now, because he's not moving, my partner couldn't pull out on the road either, so we're just sitting there watching him punch and scream at our car. Finally, a guy in his 40s with a walker comes strolling out, but get this, the little ramp for the curb that he had to use to get his walker down was exactly where this jerk's car would have been sitting if he had just pulled up a little bit, which made the disabled guy actually have a harder time to go completely around to get back to the passenger door. Now, at this point, I'm completely late for work, so I managed to slip out of my door, and as I'm walking around the transport to get onto the sidewalk, this old jerk comes running around his car with a folded up walker, screaming at me about how I have no respect for the old and disabled, and then he does something I honestly never expected. He backhand slaps me right across the face. My partner is halfway sticking out into traffic when this happens, trying to merge in, but stops when he sees this. Behind me are 2 security guards walking up to investigate what all of the noise is about, having them along with the 20 other bystanders now gawking at the commotion. Without without a blink of the eye, I rip the walker out of his hand and I throw it into oncoming traffic. As he rushes over to the road to attempt to chase it, I ran up behind him and was about to give him one big push when 4 familiar arms grabbed me in a bear hug and pulled me back. It was the security guards, stopping me from making one of the biggest mistakes of my life. But the real kicker is when the security guard was writing up his no trespassing papers, banning him, his wife, and the disabled guy he was picking up from the property for life, was the shocked fish out of water face he had when the other guy picked up and passed me my hearing aid that went flying out of my ear when he struck me in the face. I've been legally deaf for the past 10 years from a car accident where a transport spun out on black ice and smashed into my ex's car. I know there's no way he could have known that. I just found it ironic that he was so outraged about us not respecting the fact that he felt he was entitled to take up half the loading zone just to pick up a guy with a walker, all while he was forcing a deaf girl to wedge herself between a running transport and oncoming traffic just so she could get to work. Now, I do regret the way I acted, but luckily I had coworkers there to stop me right in time. Yeah, this is a crazy story because I gotta be honest, both parties do not look good in this instance. For starters, the old man in this story really could have just rolled up like, 5 feet so you can properly get out of your car? Like, it really would not have been that difficult to do that, and that guy was completely in the wrong. Also, his reaction to punching and screaming at your car, as well as backhanding you in the face, is honestly insane to me. I'm kind of surprised that the police didn't get involved, but it kind of makes sense because your partner did throw a cigarette in his face, and I know it wasn't on purpose, but from the old man's perspective, it probably definitely was, so that's definitely not a good look either. But also, I can't imagine that's the only place your partner can drop you off just so you can get out of your car and go to work. I know anytime I've been to the mall, there's always a massive parking lot close by you easily could have gone to. I don't know, it kind of seems like there was a massive lack of planning, and this all could have been avoided if you just took other steps. But honestly, in my opinion, the fact that this guy physically attacked you is completely uncalled for. That was so far out of line, and in my opinion, that makes him the bigger jerk than either you or your partner. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do in this situation? Let us know down below. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boss introduces a new time tracking tool to supposedly avoid time manipulation on our part. So me and my coworkers band together and decide to work the system, causing this new time tracking tool to backfire in my boss's face in a way that was deeply rewarding. Here's what happened. So I work in a small startup company of around 12 people. It's a very good atmosphere in the office, and everyone pulls their weight and is super motivated. However, our boss likes to micromanage us, even though he has no expertise in our fields. And this is especially relevant for us in marketing and design. We really suffer from this a lot, since he will make changes to our strategies and our posts and our website, sometimes all without telling us, and then gets upset at us when the customer feedback is bad and we aren't reaching our predicted goals. So recently, he told us that the reason he thinks we aren't seeing enough results is all because we are manipulating our hours and not actually putting the work in that we should. Until then, we each wrote down our hours manually in an Excel spreadsheet, but with a new time tracking tool, he would see how long we were working down to the minute. He also could only log in on our PCs and previously approved household devices, but not mobile because if you are not at your desk, it is not work. After our initial shock passed and our boss left for the day, our manager called for a meeting and we came up with a plan. We would do as he says in the most just following the rules kind of way. For starters, we would not engage in work-related conversations with him unless we are sitting at our desks and we're clocked in. Any questions by him which are asked when we are off the clock will only be answered once we clock in again the following day. Every phone call, text message, or otherwise work-related things outside of the office would only be answered once there was an option for us to clock in either the next day in office or for some of us on our home office device. Since we no longer have the option to shift time manually, all work minutes and hours would be clocked exactly when they took place. And as a side note to that, in my country, weekends pay better. Sundays have to be paid double, and working after 8 p.m. warrants additional financial benefits by law. Previously, if we needed to post something really quick or we had a question, we would just add the weekend hours or late time to the upcoming Monday. Basically, we were working out of goodwill, but that was very swiftly ending today. We would also stop any independent activity like posting on social media or writing an email and would send him everything to approve before following through. Well, after about a week, our boss was so fed up with this, he gave us the option to clock in from our mobile devices so he could get more immediate response to his questions. However, this of course led to us clocking in way more frequently. Well, fast forward to 2024, and I'm happy to report that we've abolished the system again and regained most of our independence. And even though our boss is still upset about how we exploited the system, it brought the team closer together and it taught him a valuable lesson. Yeah, that boss is being super obnoxious. Like, the only reason he wanted that time clock system or whatever he was trying to do was so he could find yet another excuse for why he can micromanage your job. Because if he seriously doesn't see that he's the problem with you not meeting your deadlines, then I just don't know what will make him realize that in the long run. Like, this guy's trying to be like, okay, change this design today. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? I can't just do that overnight. I mean, sure, I could, but it's not going to be the high quality that you would expect from an office. But I just love how everybody in that department basically banded together and basically said, oh, okay, you want to change things on us? Well, congratulations, we're going to work the system and make your life a living nightmare. So good for all of these people for doing that and making him reverse everything that he started, because his new system was just really dumb and there was no reason for him to try and micromanage you and your coworkers in the slightest. My entitled mother caused a massive fight over her wanting to go out for lunch, and right about now I'm kind of thinking that it's my fault, but I'm seriously not sure, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. 2 days ago we were all at home, and then my mom came back from her doctor's appointment and randomly said that she wanted to go out for lunch. The thing is, we already had stuff cooking and it was almost done, and it would have been a waste to not eat it, except none of us wanted to say anything about it in case she had a big fuss over it. So she asked us whether we want to go out for lunch, and me and my siblings were like, sure, I mean, if you want. And we did this mostly because we didn't want to make her think we didn't want to spend time with her. And then she asked us where we want to go, only we didn't really have a preference since we don't go out often, and we don't mind what we eat, so we said we can go wherever you want. But then me and my dad pointed out that we have chicken wings in the air fryer already cooking, and that it would be a waste if we didn't eat them. And it's also important to note that she already knew that we were cooking lunch by the time she got back. She kept making suggestions about where we could go, and then kept asking us where we wanted to eat, to which we replied we're fine with anything, but she still didn't choose a place. I told my dad really quietly that I think she really wants to go out, but is being indirect about it. So why don't we choose somewhere random and eat there and eat the stuff we're cooking for dinner? But she must have thought I was making a rude comment or something like that, because she demanded to know exactly what I just said. I said to her, oh, I just thought you really wanted to go, but didn't want to say in case we didn't want to, and suggested that we just choose somewhere and go. Well, when I said that, she got mad and started yelling at me for whispering behind her back, which I will admit is probably kind of what I was doing, only it wasn't intended as a snide remark, but unfortunately she did end up taking it as such. Then she got really mad and started saying stuff like, oh, this family is so ungrateful because the kids never appreciate anything we do for them. If you don't appreciate us trying to do something nice for you, then you're a big jerk. Only she didn't call us a jerk and instead said a really bad swear word. And this is definitely not the first time she's used swear words on us either. My brother was in his room when he heard the swear words screamed out, and he came outside and asked her what she said. Then my mom said, I just said if you don't appreciate what we're doing for you, then that's fine. And he said, no, not that part, the other part. And she still wouldn't tell him and started telling him off for pressing her when she didn't want to talk about it. Later, when I thought she wasn't in earshot, I pulled my brother over and told him what she said, because I knew he wouldn't be satisfied until he knew. It's also important to note that I didn't realize she could hear me, and this was probably a stupid thing to do, but I was already annoyed at the time and didn't think it mattered at that point, especially not when everyone was already annoyed too. After that, my mom started going on and on about us not being grateful and being rude and stuff, and started asking my dad why he wasn't defending her. Then the whole thing escalated into a massive argument between them, and in the end my dad went out to go somewhere quiet while my mom and brother had a conversation about the whole thing of her basically saying a swear word at all of us. Once my dad came back, everything was okay for a little bit, but then my mom wouldn't talk to me for some reason. At that point, I was still upset at her, so I didn't really care and I didn't think anything of it. Now, I think this part was my fault, but then yesterday, my dad called me to the kitchen and told me that he wanted me to apologize to my mom, and still being annoyed, I just mumbled that I was sorry, even though I didn't intend on her hearing me tell my brother what the swear word was, and didn't didn't intend to make any snide remarks either. Then she wanted me to come over and talk about it. And I just went over, but I think she could tell that I didn't want to talk about it and started lecturing me on having a bad attitude and how I probably wasn't even sorry in the first place. Now, the truth is, I was kind of sorry, but I didn't want to let her know in case she thought it meant that none of it was her fault in the first place. She then started calling me wicked and said stuff like, "How could you have such evil in your heart? I couldn't even imagine doing that to my own parents." Now, of course, I didn't want to apologize after that, since she was making a bigger deal out of the situation than necessary. My dad then came to my room to talk to me for a few minutes, and I was already a mess by then. And at that point, I was so angry that I told him I wasn't going to apologize if she was going to act like that. I think apart from the attempt at an apology, I said like 3 words to my mother the whole day. I still haven't said anything, and I'm not going to, because then what will likely happen is that she will think she got away with causing a fight. Now, as a side note, I'm a teenager, and I haven't actually heard her apologize to anyone a single time. This morning, my dad told me that I had to be at least starting to talk to her by the 9th, because that's when we're going on holiday. He said that I had to be a good daughter and be nice to her since she's my mother, all without giving any other reasons. Personally, I do not think that this is a good reason to let her get away with anything, because being ejected from somebody's loins does not qualify them for unconditional love. He then said he's gonna make me stay in the same room as her on holiday if I didn't at least say something to her. And I'm honestly just so sick of my entitled mother. Yeah, your mom sounds like a piece of work. She literally started arguments with you and the rest of the family for like no reason. Like you were telling the truth, you were not making some snide remark, but instead she's the one that took this to heights that were completely inappropriate. Like seriously, there's no reason to start swearing at people, lady, like calm down. And also, why in the world would she suggest somewhere for all of you to eat without acknowledging the obvious clues that yeah, you guys are already cooking something? Like that seems really controlling and weird in my opinion, and honestly super annoying. So I'm really sorry you had to deal with that, because seriously, you did not do anything wrong. And for your mom and your dad to try and make you apologize like that, in my opinion, was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for calling my neighbor a Karen when she threatened me with small claims court after I threw away their garbage that was scattered all over my backyard? Here's what happened. Okay, so I live with my wife and our 2 sons. We are homeowners and we have had trouble with our next door neighbors. They are a young nuclear family with 2 parents in their 30s with a little baby. We are not the type of neighbors to spy into yards or monitor what everyone is doing, so we hadn't really noticed that their backyard is a pigsty, at least not until our fence panels had been broken. These neighbors had been piling trash and leaning it up against our fence, and eventually the sheer weight of it had just broken it, causing it all to spill onto our yard. There were old pieces of wood and metal, garbage bags, pieces of furniture, and just general clutter. Well, I confronted the neighbors and informed them of what happened. I asked politely that they clear up the garbage and contribute some money towards a new fence. The husband said that he would sort it out, but after 2 weeks of no change, I knocked on their door again. The wife gave some excuse about how the baby has been crazy, but that they would get rid of the garbage as soon as possible. Well, fast forward another 3 weeks and still nothing has changed. I knocked on their door at 2 different times, left messages on their Ring doorbell, and messaged them both on Facebook, and it has been nothing but radio silence. They've also not given us any money for the fence, but to be honest, I don't even care. After no response for another week, I took matters into my own hands. I loaded up their garbage into my car and I took it to the dump. Well, they're now angry and said that we have no right to get rid of their stuff and that it's still their property. When the wife turned up at our door, we got into a small argument as she threatened me with small claims court, saying that we owe her and her husband money. Well, I called her a Karen and told her that if that stuff was so important, she shouldn't have left it littered around my yard, which is a place where my kids play, all for over a month. She says that they would have gotten rid of it if they were given a chance, and that the nearest dump is over an hour's drive away, and they don't have all the time in the world. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk, because you know what? That lady is 100% a Karen. So is her husband. I mean, this is the classic Karen and Kevin situation where they had ample time to fix this problem, but instead they ghosted you and refused to do anything about it. For starters, I would love to see these people go to small claims court, because not only have they littered on your property, but they also broke your fence. And it's not going to be hard to see that, yeah, you did not cause this. Also, my God, how much trash was on that fence. Like, even with a fence that is like kind of okay, it would have to take a lot of garbage, we're talking garbage here, to make that thing topple over and cave in towards your side. And that is seriously insane to me. Like, that is so unacceptable. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think these people are out of their minds if they think that you're the problem here, because the way they acted towards you is honestly completely unacceptable. My entitled girlfriend demands that I give up the internet at our home and even force me to sell off my computer, my PS5, and my TV, claiming that she doesn't want any gaming or online activity at all in our house. So after agreeing to this and dedicating my life to spending time with her and her hobbies, she has slowly faded out of my life and has left me bored at home doing absolutely nothing. And now that I'm trying to bring the internet back into our house and try and participate in my own hobbies again, she freaked out on me and told me that this is a deal breaker, while also shouting that she wants me out of the house. So now I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we have lived together for over a year and we have our good and bad times, but lately it has been very rough. She's gone from the house all the time. She rarely shares where she is or where she's going, and she spends time with me less and less. I've talked to her about this and how I feel a need for more time together, but it's all to no avail. When we moved into this house to live together, she told me she didn't want to have Wi-Fi, internet, a TV, or a computer. All the things that I enjoy and used to love were hobbies like playing on my PlayStation 5, playing on my PC, watching sports, etc. But it was very important to her. I agreed and was more than willing to sell my things, earn some extra money, and focus on her and her hobbies. She much prefers board games and time in nature, and I honestly love those things too. At first, she gave me a lot of her time, and our time together was great. Lots of time with board games, outside, playing sports together, being active. I mean, so much time outside of work was just us. But over time, she has found new hobbies, as well as new things to do outside of us spending time together, and that has left me alone quite a lot lately. Sometimes for 5 to 10 hours a day, and some days less, but some days even more. So here's the problem. I'm bored. I have nothing to do but other things that I'm just not really interested in. I don't want to go out, but I don't want to be stuck here at my house by myself with nothing to do except do chores, be on my phone, or sleep. I told her I wanted to get back into gaming. I wanted to get a television, a PS5, and the internet. And when I told her that, she blew up at me. She was so angry. She yelled at me and refused to talk to me about it. She left the house for the rest of the day and was gone 7 to 8 hours. But during that time, instead of being bored again, while she was gone, I went ahead and did the things I said I was gonna do. Well, today is the following day, and I just told her what I purchased. And I did it to be clear about it and not hide it. Well, when I told her that, she got so angry. She said that I knew having internet was a deal breaker, and I did it anyways. She also said some hurtful things and then asked me to leave. Now, I'm sure I could have communicated this better, but I just want to know if I can save this somehow and still have something to do like gaming or watching some TV, even only while she's gone. I told her that while she's at home or when she wants to go out together, that I would always give her and the home 100% priority. And I truly mean that, but it honestly just didn't matter. So now I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, your girlfriend, in my opinion, is being completely unreasonable. Like, there is no situation here where this behavior and this level of control is in any way acceptable. First of all, why on earth did you agree to this? The original poster sold all of their electronics, all to be with some girl and spend time with her. Like, for me, if someone came to me and said, you need to give up all your electronics and only spend time with me, I would look him in the eye and be like, no, that's not happening, sorry. Like, I can't actually imagine anybody embracing that reality and being like, you got it, babe, no internet ever again. And this goes beyond like video games or anything like that. Like, the internet, in my opinion, is no longer just like a luxury to have in the home. It is literally a utility that people use all the time. So to deny yourself of having that in your home if you have the availability and you can afford it, that in my opinion is like saying, okay, I just don't want any running water. And sure, water's different than the internet, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. And it's really suspicious to me that your girlfriend's like, focus on my hobbies instead of yours. And it's almost like there's no compromise at all. It's either her way or the highway. And that just does not seem fair in the slightest, like at all. This is seriously an insane situation. And in my opinion, it is absolutely crazy to me that you even agreed to this in the first place. Like, the only reason you sacrificed those things was so that you could spend time with her, but now she doesn't even spend time with you. You literally got rid of all of that for no reason. And the fact that she would react in the way that she did and freak out and be like, this is a deal breaker. You need to get out. Like, seriously, what is happening right now? So she can have all of her hobbies, but you can't have yours on your free time? It's not like you're neglecting her or the house or anything like that. You've made it very clear that when she is at home, you're gonna focus on her. So honestly, from my perspective, this whole situation is insane to me. And I just can't imagine being with a girlfriend who's gonna ask so much of me, but also be so unwilling to compromise even in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not inviting someone to my New Year's party after their son destroyed some of my amiibos in my collection at my previous party? Here's what happened. So I'm a 31-year-old male, and I usually host New Year's parties at my house. I have a considerable amount of amiibo figures that I have collected over the years. They're enclosed in a glass showcase that has a key. I keep it locked because 2 of my female friends have kids, and I like having them over, so it's fine. Now, here's the thing. I have 3 mom friends in my group, and one of the moms, by the name of Lucy, that's not her real name, has a 6-year-old son. And at last New Year's party, I forgot the key in the showcase, and he ended up playing with my amiibos. Now, he was just playing with them, which would have been fine, but he actually ripped them off the bases, which ended up damaging a few of them. I ended up complaining and asked for her to pay me back for the damaged ones, but she just ridiculed it and brushed it off. So this year, out of a small amount of spite, I decided not to invite her, and no one at the party even seemed to notice. Well, today I get an angry text message saying that she really likes my party and it's a shame that I forgot she was my friend, while also asking me why I didn't invite her. I said it was because of what happened last year, that I didn't want her child near my collection ever again. She said that I was being childish and said that I was a jerk and that this is not a reason to not invite someone and that her child was just playing with them. Now, some friends say that it's okay and that it's understandable, but others think that I'm in the wrong. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I do not think you're the jerk in the slightest. This lady's son destroyed some of your personal property. I don't care what it was. Her child destroyed something of yours that probably cost you a lot of money just to obtain. The fact that this is a popular toy for like Nintendo Switches and stuff like that honestly doesn't matter to me. And the fact that she's trying to downplay this is also crazy to me, because her son definitely destroyed your personal property. There's no other way around this. He damaged your stuff and destroyed something that is very important to you. And if Lucy had any sense in her head, she would do what she can to pay you back. Just because she thinks that it's childish that you have those in the first place doesn't mean that you're not justified to keep her from coming to your house. And if this lady, as well as your friends who think you're a jerk, really want to stick to that opinion, then maybe you should give out like the retail price as well as the selling price of these items and explain to them that some of these cost a lot of money and that they really meant a lot to you and you didn't want to lose them. That might be a good way to get through to these people, but overall, if I was in your shoes, I honestly would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for uninviting my best friend from my wedding, all because she kept telling people that she dated my fiance first? Here's what happened. So my friend Isabel and I have been friends since we were born. Isabel is not my friend's real name. We were practically raised together. We were closer in college, but after that, we have been drifting apart a little, but I still had a strong bond with her up until recently. We have both been there for each other a lot through life, so this situation is really tough. After college, when Isabel was 23, she went on a few dates with my now fiance, who we will call Jake. Jake is not his real name, but then she told him that she wasn't interested in anything serious. Even though I was her best friend, I didn't really know Jake because she used to get asked out a lot, but only a few turned serious, so I knew about her boyfriends but not necessarily her dates. Almost a year after that, I moved in with Isabel and so we got close again, and it was after this that I met Jake. We quickly became good friends, and I used to talk about him to Isabel a lot, but it's when I showed her his picture that she recognized him and told me about her dates with him. Friendships were more important to me than any guy back then, so I asked her if it was okay to date him because I liked him a lot. She said that she had no problem and joked about it ever turning into a relationship, which I took as a joke. Well, Jake and I became serious very quick. He is my soulmate. By then though, Isabel and I had lost touch a bit since I moved in with Jake, with work becoming more of a priority, right until I I got engaged, she used to still joke to both me and Jake that she didn't think that we would be this into each other. And at the time, I saw it was funny because Jake is the opposite of me. After I got engaged, she became really weird. She was very shocked and just would not believe it. Then later she used to tell me that I'm too young to be married, and if I'm sure, but I just saw this as concern, although she did agree to be my maid of honor along with my sister. Afterwards, I posted on my Instagram about our engagement, and people were reposting it and congratulating us. But Isabel just captioned it by saying, "You better mention me in your vows because he was into me first." Well, when we saw that, Jake and I were very uncomfortable with that. But I decided at the time to defend her, saying that it's just Isabel and she jokes around a lot. But I still let her know that it was a bit uncomfortable, and she said that she was joking. After Christmas, we hosted a party together, and on that day, Isabel just kept telling all the friends and family gathered that Jake dated her first, and that she let me have him. Even after telling her it was not okay, she still joked around. Later, I told her that she was crossing my boundaries and that it was not okay, to which she said that I was overreacting. Well, in the end, I told her to not attend my wedding at all. Now, I have been overthinking a lot after that, and right now, people who know about this are just choosing sides based on who they know more. I'm worried that I'm ruining a lifelong friendship when I'm not even right. What if to her, it really was just a joke, and I'm just not being understanding, but she is also not being supportive or positive, which I think is completely unfair. I'm really confused, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think she was joking around. It sounds like she's being very spiteful and very jealous of your situation. Clearly she missed out on a guy that could have been marriage material, and she's now letting you and everybody else know that she somehow played a hand in it, even though she didn't in the slightest. You met this guy a year later. It's not because of Isabel. So for her to say something like that is really uncalled for. In my opinion, she loses any right to try and be like, oh, it's just a joke, especially right after you express your concerns that this really bothers you. And you even said it again at the Christmas party. You're like, hey, please stop doing that. It's really bothering me. And when she said, oh, you're just overreacting, that in my opinion would have been my last straw as well, because you have definitely made your opinion clear and you gave her multiple opportunities to fix her behavior, or there would be consequences for her crossing your boundaries. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think it's important for you to back up your boundaries, and I think it's totally appropriate for you to tell your friend that no, she cannot come to your wedding. Because if she's willing to do it here in front of friends and family, then you can bet she's gonna try that garbage at your wedding. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would not want that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not wanting to let my mother-in-law and her husband sleep in our bed while my husband and I are away traveling? Here's what happened. So we moved 3 months ago to my husband's birth town. His mother lives about an hour and a half away from us in a smaller city and occasionally stays over with us to do some errands. Even though we don't have the best of relationships due to some behaviors on her side, I don't mind her coming over, and I am a good host in any situation. At this time, my mom, her boyfriend, and my sister came from far away for New Year's and are staying over, and on my husband's request, they're staying for his birthday next week. While we travel, my mother will also be caring for our dog that is a bit sick. Well, today his mother texted asking to sleep in our bedroom tomorrow night while we travel. That was due to our guest bedroom being occupied by my family and she not wanting to be without air conditioning for the night. But honestly, I did not like this idea. To me, a bedroom is something extremely personal and private. I felt a huge invasion of privacy to share my bed and pillows with people, and also, I don't feel comfortable to let someone else in the privacy of our room. It's also important to say that I have issues with sleeping locations, as well as sharing personal space with people. It even took a while for me to be able to sleep with my husband. It is something extremely important to me, and my husband is aware of it. Now, we had different upbringings, and we sometimes have different views on society and social cues. He found no issue to let his mother and her husband in our room. He just doesn't really care, while I wouldn't allow my mom or anyone else sleep in our room unless the circumstances were extreme, such as sickness, old age, or surgery. This was something really clear in my household. Before I really had a conversation with my husband, I asked my mom and she agreed with me, also highlighting that she would not request that of me, that the marriage bed was something sacred and incredibly private. I don't really see the sacred thing as I'm not really religious, but I am 100% on the private aspect of it. His mother has close relatives that she stayed over all the time time before we moved towns, and I don't see the need to be uncomfortable and invaded because she prefers to sleep with AC in our house. My husband and I talked earlier today, and our upbringings clashed. I am aware we have different mindsets, but I established clear boundaries on the things that matter, and this was something that mattered to me. And he said he couldn't understand how this was that big of an invasion, or even being that big of a deal, as it was only a bed and we could change the sheets later on. And honestly, I felt like this was just completely unfair. We agreed to disagree, and in the end, his mother won't be staying over. So was I the jerk for putting my quirk and my need for privacy over his mother's comfort? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your house is not a hotel. So for her to literally be like, let me sleep in your bed while you're away, that in my opinion is super gross and not something I would be on board with at all. Because I think the original poster is 100% right. My bed is my bed for a reason, and I do not want anybody else sleeping in that bed. So I don't think you're the jerk at all, because this very clearly is a boundary that you're not willing to compromise on. My boyfriend only pays about 20% of the rent, leaving me with 80% for me to figure out on my own. And right about now, I'm starting to feel resentful towards him, even though the both of us are doing really well financially. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I moved out together in August. I was ready to move out and get my first apartment, whereas he was fine with staying at his parents' home to avoid paying rent. For reference, I'm a 23-year-old female and he is 25 years old. We both have well-paying, stable jobs. We make about the same amount, with me making about $1,000 more a month, which makes sense because I work in a hospital and I'm often working overnight or I'm on call. I started looking for places over the summer and was open to getting a place for just myself or to share with him. It was obviously my preference to live with him, and so I had many chats with him trying to sway him to move in together. We lived 35 minutes away from each other, and his parents would only let me sleep over once a month. He told me he was ready to live together, but didn't want to spend the money and was in no rush to move out. Because of this, I told him that I would be open to paying more of the rent, as he has student loans and car payments that I don't have. I found an apartment that I liked, and he was open to moving in together on the agreement that I paid $1,500 a month and he pays $350 per month. I agreed because I love him and I wanted to live with him really badly. I knew he would be very happy once he moved out and would love to have his own place to have all of his friends over. I also felt bad because I felt like I pushed him to move out when he didn't need to, so I was okay with this agreement. I've known since I met him that he is obsessed with money, and it is one of his biggest red flags, but I admired that he was good with his money and responsible with it. Although it wasn't set in stone, we had discussed that he would pay for dinners and other things since I was paying so much in rent. At the time, I didn't think it was a big deal to clarify because I figured he would have no problem helping out. As I said, we moved into our apartment in August and he loves it. He loves having his friends over whenever he wants, as well as the independence from his family. Well, it's January now, and I find myself feeling resentful and taken advantage of. Everything else in our life is split in half besides drinks at the bar. For example, we just went grocery shopping and it was $160. He said to Venmo him $75. I said that my food was only worth $50, so I was planning to send him that. And this is my first time saying this. I mean, I usually just send half anyways, but this time he took the receipt from me and counted up all of my charges incorrectly, by the way, and said that I was wrong. Even if it was more money though, I think the least he could do is pay the grocery bill occasionally. Well, after that, I got mad and I stormed off. I thought he would be thankful that I helped out so much and would have no problem with buying me dinners and groceries, or even something nice from time to time. He didn't even get me a card or flowers for our 1-year anniversary, but it always comes down to money. I would understand if he struggled financially, but he's not at all. I can't help but begin to feel resentful, and I feel taken advantage of because he knows how much I love him, and I would put up with so much for him. But at the same time, I agreed to this, and I convinced him to move in with me when he wasn't 100% ready. Am I being fair or unreasonable here? What should I do? Personally, you've given him several months to get settled and have some kind of footing when it comes to this apartment. So if you were to come back in the new year and say, hey, I think it's time that we start splitting the rent. Because honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would probably get resentful as well. Think about it for a second. You both basically make the same amount of money, and this guy's paying almost no rent. If I was in your shoes, I would be ticked off. And I would also be really upset upset that he is really gonna penny pinch and be like, wait a second, that's not what the receipt says, especially when you went grocery shopping that one time as an example. Like, that seems really petty and so unnecessary. Now, for context, the original poster stated that combined through the both of them, they make about $25,000 a month. So there's really no good excuse that they couldn't just split the rent and go from there. Like everything else is split down the line, why can't this also be tacked on? You've given him several months to get settled in. He loves having the independence and the freedom, but with that freedom and independence definitely comes at the cost of paying rent. So in my opinion, I don't think you would be in the wrong for asking that, and I think it would be really, really weird for him to be like, well, this is not what we agreed on, because right now the agreement you guys agreed to is really skewed in his favor, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be upset as well. My entitled married coworkers always get all of the benefits simply because they have children, which allows them to get off work early while also not affecting their PTO that they've accrued. But after countless days of having to shoulder my coworkers' burdens, all because they had to take care of their stupid kids, I decided that I had had enough, and I ended up lying to my company that I worked for, claiming that I was a father and I had to take care of my child. And I did this just so I could also enjoy the benefits of my coworkers who were also parents. And with all things considered, I honestly don't regret this, and I seriously should have done this sooner. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm a manager at a software and communications company, and around 2 years ago, I had to take a sabbatical because of stress and mental health issues. Sometime later, I returned to work, and when I was asked what was new, I said I had recently became a father, which is a lie, but let me confess why I did it. For a bit of context, at my company, we all work from home, but several members of my team are parents of young kids. While I do respect their choice not to let their career affect their personal lives, I think sometimes the balance is tipped against those who don't have kids. My colleagues take a considerable amount of time off each week because of family reasons, and during that time, their workload is distributed among the rest of the team. Several times, I was stuck working on holidays because my colleagues had family events. Some of them have never worked on Christmas Day, even though they fully know part of the team has to be on call because of how our industry works. At one point, it became accepted that people who have kids can just unload their burden onto their coworkers just because their family comes first. I am happy that they spend time with their families, as they should, but also I believe our personal life and our work life should be separate. If your contributions to the company are capped by your personal life, then our compensation and what's expected from us should be different. This is more of an issue with how the company gives different privileges to some of their employees and not about the employees who have families. However, I'm not going to fight to make working parents lose some of their comforts. So instead, I decided to equalize my work life with that of my colleagues who have families. When I asked to return to the company because they were in dire need of help, I accepted and clarified that I had recently become a father and it might sometimes affect my schedule. They were obviously okay with that, and the first change that happened is that I stopped working overtime. I worked from 9 to 5, and at 5:05 p.m. at the most I'm logging out because I have to supposedly pick up my kid from daycare. Then I began taking note of how many hours a week my colleagues would take without losing any accrued PTO. They'd often take 1 hour after lunch just to take their kids to an appointment, or leave early because of family reasons, or they skip meetings because they're babysitting their kids at home. And I have access to everyone's timetables, so I know how many hours they're being paid for. So from time to time, I'd also say I was taking my kid to an appointment, and instead I'd stay online cleaning up my inbox or doing less urgent work that I'd normally postpone, while also avoiding the pressure of having to be available for the rest of my team. Sometimes I had a headache, and I'd log out early as soon as all of my work was done. In the past, I would have to stay helping cover for some of my coworkers. This year, and for the first time with this company, I didn't have to work on Christmas Day, and I'm not going to be working on New Year's. They'll have to hire someone else to cover for me and all the other parents who are too busy to work, because you know what? In my eyes, it's all equal. Now, here's the thing. There is no chance that they will ever find out, because we all work from different countries, and there's no chance I'll run into them or they'll visit me. I know it's a lie and I'm taking advantage of benefits that are reserved for people with kids, but I don't care. There shouldn't be these kind of blanket benefits that have a negative effect on some of the employees. I also decided that next month I'm baptizing my imaginary kid. They'll be raised religious and we'll be celebrating religious festivities during the year as well. And honestly, I'm looking forward to that long Easter weekend that my coworkers always seem to enjoy. This is hilarious to me because I know exactly what they're talking about. Seriously, in the working world, I've experienced this firsthand where people who don't have kids suddenly get all the work of everybody who does have a kid. And I'm right there with the original poster. I get it. Parents should be involved in their kids' lives. But if I'm gonna have to take the work of literally everybody else in the office, all because my coworker has like some demon spawn, then seriously, I should be paid more. If you want me to do more work, I should be compensated accordingly. And no, I don't care about being a team player. Either pay me more or this is not gonna work. Or you can take this insane route of being like, yeah, I've got a family. I'm now a father and I have kids. Like honestly, that is so funny that this guy worked around the system and said, okay, if everyone else has a family, then I'm gonna have one as well. So while there might be some like moral issues here, honestly, I think I completely understand where this guy's coming from, and I just don't blame him for fabricating this family just so you can get that special treatment as well. Especially if that means you don't have to work on a holiday for the first time ever with this company. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled family member has disowned me and claimed that we are no longer family, all because I didn't invite her over for Christmas Day. Here's what happened. So I have this family member who seems to think everybody owes her simply because we're family. She moved here with her husband and kids to be close to their parents and proceeded to get butthurt because their parents didn't devote all their time to her and her kids, and worse still, didn't spend all their money showering the kids with gifts. My husband and I have recently built a house and it was finally finished in time for us to move in before Christmas. I have a lot of children. Some are adults and have moved out of the family home. The only thing I wanted for Christmas was to spend our first Christmas in our new home with all of our children together for the first time in years. They always come and visit around this time of the year, but with spouses, work, and other obligations, we haven't been all together at the same time for years, and especially not on Christmas Day. But this year, my wish was granted, and I was Buddy the Elf excited for Christmas this year. Last Christmas, my entitled family member fed me a sob story about how they had no one, and Christmas will be just horrible. So I told her that they could join us if they wanted to, which they ended up doing. They then proceeded to drink all the cocktails within minutes, just slamming them down one after the other. They sat around complaining about the heat and about other family members. They ate some food and then they left. And you know what? I didn't really mind. If I'm being honest, I had a migraine and I was cooking in 40-degree heat, so I didn't really have the capacity to care. I had been talking about my plans for Christmas this year for months, as well as moving into the house and having all my kids at home. Well, my entitled family members had plans of their own. They were all heading out of town and visiting other family members over Christmas. And you know what? All is well. No issue, no problems. Well, at least I thought. Christmas Day rolls around, and as planned, I had all my kids home, as well as all of the adult kids' significant others. It was a fantastic day. After Christmas dinner, I got a text message saying that we are no longer family. Now, my obvious reply is to say, what is going on? And I get a response saying that we're not family anymore. She's done. She then inserts all these weird threats and hopes that I have an amazing life. Now, I had absolutely no idea where all of this was coming from, but I guess in the messed up mindset that is entitlement, it all made sense to her. After a lot of back and forth trying to figure out what the problem was, it turns out their Christmas plans fell through and they had to come home before Christmas. And apparently, I'm a massive jerk because I don't spend all my time stalking people on social media and therefore didn't know they had returned home. And I'm also an even bigger jerk because I didn't invite them to my house for Christmas Day. Now, I had been very clear in the lead up to Christmas and had said multiple times this Christmas was the first Christmas in my new house and was being spent with all of my children. No one else, no extended family or friends, just me, my husband, our kids, and their partners. At one point, after asking what the problem was and getting no closer to an answer, I came straight out and said, is this all really over the fact that I spent Christmas with my kids and I didn't invite you and your family this year? Well, it turns out that's exactly what the problem was. They would have had to come back home for whatever reason, and she just ostracized herself and her family from the rest of the extended family. So they spent their Christmas in their home with just her husband and kids, while I was making the most of my day with my husband and kids, and it hurt her feelings that my adult children had their their long-term partners here as well. Apparently, my kids' partners aren't family because being in a serious monogamous relationship for years means nothing. And she's blood, so she should have been invited. So honestly, am I missing something here? Where in the rule book of family does it say that I have to invite every man and his dog to my home for every single special occasion? Where does it say everyone else's happiness is my responsibility? How do seemingly normal people build up a mindset of the whole world owing them something? What should I do? Yeah, your extended family is being really entitled. Like, how are you supposed to know that their plans fell through? Like, you weren't on social media or anything like that. You had no idea that they had to come home and do their own thing. So it's definitely not your fault that you enjoyed your Christmas while this extended family member was just completely miserable. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would not worry about these people in the slightest. An entitled customer tries to pay for a $3 candy bar with a $100 bill, only to then get angry at me when I don't have proper change that he demands. And I've honestly never felt more frustrated with a customer in my life. Here's what happened. So this story happened a couple of years ago. I was working on this big national department chain store, which I was hired for Black Friday, but stayed for the holidays. The company was trying to boost online sales, so every day they would do some type of new discount if the customer bought online to then pick it up in person. But they were always confused, and we, meaning the employees, spent more time explaining how the offer worked than actually selling stuff. So anyways, this man comes with his daughter around my age and a stuffed shopping cart. I scanned every product and told the final price once I was done. Now, picture a man twice my height getting red in the face with rage when he sees a price that is definitely not what he predicted. He then elevated his voice, asking me about the offers and why it didn't work. I tried explaining how it worked, but he stopped me immediately and said to me, "If I hear another word from you, I swear." Which, when he said that, I didn't really get that at all. It was obviously not my fault or anybody else's at the store, as everyone there was following the company's orders. The man demanded I canceled every product except the cheapest thing off the list, which was a chocolate bar that was worth $3. So I did, but it was over 50 products, and I had to beep the supervisor's card, type the password, and beep the product for every single thing. This process took me 20 minutes at least. The man then handed me a $100 bill to pay for the chocolate bar, which I obviously didn't have change for. Now, I could have buzzed a bell that resonates to the whole store and call my manager, but I decided to forget that it existed. I instead buzzed a little siren below the cashier's table that only buzzes to the other cashiers, but there were none. And since the man was the only customer and everyone else had their chores to do, no one else heard it besides me, the man, and his daughter. I even saw one of my colleagues a few feet away restocking some shelf, but he couldn't tell that we were having an issue, so he didn't offer to help. I kept buzzing that little siren, looked at the man, and just shrugged, just to basically say that I was doing everything that I could. It went on for 10 more minutes, and I kid you not, he finally got impatient. He said to me, "I don't have all day, you know." I said to him, "I'm sorry, sir. You're trying to pay a $3 chocolate bar with a $100 bill, and I don't have $97 in change. If you have smaller bills, we can do this quicker." He then says to me, "I have 5s, 10s, 20s, everything you need, but I'm not helping you in any way." So I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm sorry then, but you're just gonna have to wait for a manager." Eventually, a manager came downstairs to check everything, and I asked them if they could get change for me. As he was trying to get smaller bills from that $100 bill, he whispered to me, "What a jerk," which I replied by saying, "You have no idea." Once that customer was gone, I told the manager what happened and started crying. He said I could have called him and he would have handled the situation for me, but he laughed and was very proud with the way I handled that situation myself. Yeah, that guy's a massive jerk. Who tries to pay for a $3 chocolate bar with a $100 bill? Like, when you're under that kind of scrutiny and pressure, all for things that are outside of your control and stuff that is not your problem, it can get really stressful and make anybody crack. So I don't blame the original poster for crying after that incident, because trust me, I have felt that way as well after dealing with some really entitled people, and I think that you handled that situation incredibly well. My entitled relatives cut me out of their lives after I refused to allow them to host their parties at my house. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, me and my family live at this house with 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a bigger living room, and a double car garage. My house is at the end of the street corner with a very big backyard along with a pool. Now, this house is pretty good to throw any big parties or some kind of get-togethers, but unfortunately, my entitled relatives are jerks and just the greedy type of people that you might might expect. Last Thanksgiving and our Christmas party, these relatives throw small parties for 20 to 30 people. All of these invited guests were complete jerks, and they were heavy drinking clowns. Both parties were a complete mess, as these guests drink like animals and started fighting each other over politics, personal issues, and ended up breaking stuff at the house. Some of the girls that drink a little bit less were playing music loud on speakers and giving no real issues. Eventually, it's past 11 p.m. and they won't turn off the music, so more drama started, and it led to more fights and more noise. The cops were called both times by the neighbors, and they reported these fights and these shoutings. The first time, the cops let these relatives go with warnings and no fine, but the second time, they issued a $500 fine and left with a final warning stating that next time, the house owner and the people living there go to prison for 90 days with felony charges and a $3,000 fine if the neighbors ever complain again. These relatives had alcohol on both occasions, but they had 7 to 8 bottles of whiskey, vodka, and beers. But the guests to the house brought their own stock of alcohol and beers, and they fight and break things when they're drunk enough. Well, my relatives were in trouble because they promised to throw Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's parties. Now, due to the cops' warning, they were hesitant to throw the New Year party at their home. Every other place that they could look was either booked out or closed on New Year's Eve. They asked my family if they could throw the party at our house, and we refused for this deal for multiple reasons. We already had plans to go to someone else's place for a party on New Year, and we didn't know any of the guests that my relatives were inviting at the party. We knew about their past party problems and the mess that their guests leave, not even to mention the loud and stupid fights, as well as playing music way too late and breaking things and making a massive mess. And this is all because they get way too drunk. We would be cleaning the house by the time everybody leaves and dropping off these drunk friends at their houses. So they accepted our rejection and went back to look for another house. Then the very next day, my cousin and other relatives tell me that these entitled relatives are talking garbage. They're spreading rumors behind our backs to our relatives and friends. Eventually, they blocked our numbers and didn't want to see us unless we found a place for their promised New Year's party and pay the rent or cover their party cost altogether. Now, we were pretty angry, so we got into a verbal argument and eventually decided to cut them off entirely from our lives. Some people took our sides while some people took theirs. After the fight, we cut off contact with everyone else too, especially anyone who supported or took the entitled relative's side. And truly, through it all, I felt good because I really didn't like them and I didn't want to deal with their multiple issues anymore. Honestly, good for the original poster. Here's the thing, just because they're family doesn't mean you have to allow them into your lives, especially if they're gonna do stuff like this. Now hear me out, I'm all about resolving conflict and trying to make amends and apologize or accept somebody's apology because family messes up and family is probably the first people to offend you if anything's gonna go wrong. They are the people that know you the most and probably the best out of anybody. But these family members are way different. These people have a drinking problem and they're being super toxic because you're not catering to them and basically enabling their bad behavior. So all in all, I don't blame you for cutting them off because I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My entitled friend keeps lecturing me that I'm not doing enough around the house to make the place look nice. And this is the same friend who's currently living in my house rent-free, all after he lost his apartment. And at this point, I'm seriously so annoyed and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my friend lost his apartment when his dad passed away. He had nowhere to go, so I allowed him to stay on my couch until he can finally get his own place. He does not pay rent. However, since my friend moved in, he's been complaining I don't pick my stuff up right away. Now, I work a lot of hours, and yes, I'll leave dishes, but not for long periods of time. I just have no desire to get dishes done after an 11-hour shift. My friend will mosey over and complain about dishes not being done, and he will also do this with a few items in my bedroom. He tries to tell me to do dishes or expects me to do them or clean my room. Now to this, I usually say that this is my apartment and I'm gonna clean when I feel like it because I'm the tenant. He gets frustrated thinking that I should have the same mentality as him and even goes as far as to accuse me of taking advantage of him or something like that. He says, "Oh, so because it's your place, I should have to get treated this way?" He then mumbles out statements about how he can't wait to not be around me at all. Now at this point, I'm confused as to how I'm doing anything wrong or how he even feels taken advantage of. He acts like he's in this really horrible situation, not having me do my dishes right away. He states he has no say in anything, but I feel like he's trying to tell me what to do in my own house. I can't help but feel like he's either being awful or trying to be controlling. I mean, he wants to tell me what to do, which is clean my own stuff. He's the one trying to tell me what to do, but I just don't let it happen. So am I manipulating this guy or something? What should I do? Honestly, I don't really understand why you're letting this guy live in your house rent-free, and I don't understand why you're putting up with that in the slightest. Like, if this guy really doesn't like living in your house for free, by the way, while also not doing anything to keep it clean, then he could just leave and literally live anywhere else. There's no good reason for this kind of attitude. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would tell him straight up, look, if you don't like living here, you're more than welcome to leave and find your own place to live. Because right now you are doing him a favor. You're doing a kindness out of your own heart, literally for no reason other than being kind. Like, you could have denied this guy a couch to sleep on from the very beginning, but instead you decided to do a good thing for somebody that you thought was a friend, but instead is slowly turning into somebody that sounds awful to live with. And the guy doesn't even pay rent. Like, seriously, what's going on here? So hopefully he can either move out quickly or some kind of agreement can come between the two of you. Because based on what you've described, this guy sounds super lazy. And regardless of his circumstances, he definitely needs to get back to work and find his own place to live. 3 entitled customers tried to give me all sorts of problems at my serving job, making unreasonable demands while also trying to treat me like garbage in the process. But I decided that that was not going to happen, as I went back at them just as hard as they were trying to come at me, and as a result, I put all 3 of these man babies back in their place. Here's what happened. So yesterday, I had 3 grown men give me an attitude, and I had to put them back in their place. The first guy, I'll call him Coffee Guy, comes in and places an order. I gave him his food and coffee, and I went on with my business. I was wiping down the high bar when he snapped his fingers at me instead of saying, "Excuse me, miss," like a normal person with decent house training. I looked up and told him that for starters, I'm not a dog, but also, what did you want? He told me that his coffee is cold. So naturally, I apologized and I got him another cup from the pot. Once I gave him the coffee, he was like, "Feel how cold this one is. How do you not know this coffee is cold?" Now, obviously, this guy doesn't know anything about ceramic and how well they contain heat so we don't burn our hands off when we hold it, but I just ignored him and walked off, even when he muttered something under his breath. But let's be honest, that's a lie. Y'all already know exactly how I am. You got something to say, come say it to my face, not behind my back. So I almost snapped my neck turning around, and tell me why this guy looked at me as if I just kicked his dog. I asked him if he's got a problem, and before he could get a word in, I was like, "What is your problem? I gave you another cup of coffee, and this time it's hot. I was nothing but respectful to you, and you still gave me a dirty look. What is your problem?" Well, he mumbled nothing and then walked away. Like, sir, it's 6-something in the morning and you came into my job with an attitude. Don't use cold coffee as an excuse to take your problems out on me. He did tip me, but he's still a jerk in my book. Then this other guy, we'll call him Carryout Guy, came in and placed a to-go order. So I priced his ticket and told him his total. Tell me why he got an attitude saying to me, "God, can I get my food first?" So I matched his energy and I told him it's the restaurant's policy that he pays for his order first before making it. He then threw the money on the high bar and I threw the change exactly the same way he gave it to me. And as you can probably guess, he didn't like that at all. And during the lunch rush, we had another customer. We'll call him an entitled regular. He wanted to order, but we were just a little bit too busy. I was working on 2 separate to-go orders, an online order, and tending to 2 tables. Since I had the high bar, he was trying to get my attention. Now, I told him that I'll be with him in just a minute, but he didn't have a minute apparently. And he said to me, "I just want a large coffee to go. Is that too much to ask?" And at that point, the entire diner got quiet. Once I confirmed that he's done with his little tantrum, I told him that either another server can get him his coffee or he can go to the gas station next door, but he is not getting anything from me. Now, another server ended up getting him his coffee, and one of my tables told me that I should have shown him the door instead of giving him options. And honestly, it makes me wonder why some people say that women are too emotional. Yeah, all 3 of those guys that came in were completely out of line. Like, for starters, in my opinion, if you're going to a sit-down restaurant, the least you can do is have some kind of courtesy to the people serving you. Like, they already deal with so many jerks on a daily basis, and the least you could do is be a non-problematic table for them to deal with. Have your money ready, know what you want to order, and just be a good customer. So it is baffling to me that people would actually act like this in public nonetheless. Like, was there a full moon during these interactions? Like, that seriously sounds insane to me. Like, I can understand somebody being just a little bit impatient with getting their food, but these reactions were just completely out of the ordinary, and they were just so unacceptable across the board. But with all of them, the one common denominator here is the original poster. They clearly are like the John Wick of servers, because they do not take that garbage for a second, and honestly, I don't blame them. She has clearly had enough of these types of interactions, and I don't blame her for firing back at these people with exactly the same garbage they're trying to throw her way. So to the original poster, you are awesome. What you did and said, as well as your just general demeanor of not taking anybody's garbage, is truly something inspiring to see. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiance's aunt sent him a text message basically telling him to break up with me, and right now I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that I work night shifts. From 8 o'clock p.m. until 4 o'clock in the morning, I work in an emergency pet hospital. I see a lot of crying owners holding their dead animals in their arms, as well as animals with chronic sicknesses, and it's sad, but I do love my job regardless. But as you can probably guess, this is very emotionally and mentally taxing. My fiance, on the other hand, works day shift in the union. He has fun at work with his buddies and gets to mess around a lot. Another important note is that I have bad social anxiety around people that I'm not completely comfortable with. My fiance's aunt was hosting a surprise birthday party for his grandma at her house, which was one state over and about a 5-hour drive. Since I was working until 4 o'clock in the morning into Saturday morning, my fiance decided that he would drive to my house to meet me there at 4 in the morning, which is right when I got off, and then we can set off and I can sleep in the car to try and get a couple more hours at least. We live about 45 minutes away from each other, and I live in the opposite direction of his aunt's house, although he didn't mind backtracking if that meant I got more sleep. Well, 4 o'clock in the morning swung around and he's not there. It turns out he slept through his alarm, so I call him, and we just agreed that it would be faster if I just drove the 45 minutes to his house, and then we set off from there. So I lost some sleep. We got in the car, and I'm just tired and groggy, and honestly, just a little bit salty that he didn't show up and slept through his alarm, but hey, it happens. Now, I barely slept during the whole ride. The sun was in my eyes through the blanket I had over my face. The recliner seat was uncomfortable, just not ideal. I overall was not well rested at all. We get there, I say hello to everyone, and I ask some family members who are already there some questions about their dog, mostly because it's a common interest of mine. I let the family talk for a while, and then I sit down and listen. I'm a big listener, and I never have a lot to say regardless, so I do that while staying present. The party rolls around, and we eat and talk to some people here and there, and I go over to the couch and I put a blanket over my legs. I am so exhausted at this point that my eyes keep closing and I simply couldn't help it. My fiance suggested going to take a nap, but I refused until the guests left. And this is all because I didn't want to be rude by going to sleep so early. And as a side note, we were staying at his aunt's house for the night. I just wanted to be around still, but I was too exhausted to stand or even keep my eyes open. I asked his aunt for a cup of tea at some point, and we exchanged some words about how good it is. Then my fiance and I went to bed because we were both pretty tired, but in the morning, there was a very weird feeling in the air. I ignored it and just chalked it up as my anxiety or something like that, and I told myself that it's my feelings that's causing me to be anxious for no reason. But it turns out it was actually a gut feeling. The very next day, he receives a text message from his aunt pretty much saying how rude I acted the entire night and that he should never bring me to another social gathering that she is hosting ever again. How I had apparently made it clear that I didn't want to be there, and she even ended her message by saying, "Listen, I'm saying this out of love. She is not for you." Now, I was pretty taken aback. No one had said anything to me about it. They knew that I just worked a night shift and barely got any sleep in the car. I really didn't know where this was coming from. The worst part is that my fiance immediately submitted to his aunt. He sent her a text back saying how embarrassed he was by my actions, and I really didn't understand what actions I took though. I smiled at people, I listened when they were talking, I was present, and I am just a natural wallflower. His aunt also insinuated that I'm painting myself as a victim by blaming it on the night I had prior, and also my history of social anxiety. It seems that he won't fully be on my side about this, and he told me that his family has been right in the past about other stuff, so he would rather trust their opinions, even on the chance of them being wrong wrong about it. So how can I deal with this situation without making it awkward for the next time I see his aunt again? What should I do? I want to start off by saying that the fiance's aunt is completely out of line here. First of all, she's trying to act like you ruined the party. Like, even at a base level, just by being there and being present and trying to talk to people and listening to what they're saying, that in and of itself is pretty benign when it comes to like social interactions. And at the very least, it shows that you're there, you're present, and you're trying to have some kind of like pleasant interaction overall. So for her to chalk up you being like, what, maybe slightly tired or something like that, as you being rude at her stupid party is just ridiculous to me. But that's not even like the biggest problem in this situation. It's the fact that your fiance didn't stand up for you that really bothers me like a lot, in my opinion. Like, why would he not be like, no, you're completely wrong. She was just really tired from working all night. It baffles me that he just let that happen and basically let his aunt walk all over you. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but if my family started to talk garbage about my fiance, especially when I knew my fiance didn't do anything to warrant that kind of garbage, I would definitely stand up for her. I wouldn't take that for a second. So the fact that he like rolled over and showed his underbelly, that's like a massive red flag in my opinion. And I personally think that's like the bigger issue in this grand scheme of things than anything else. Because at the end of the day, he let these people say horrible, false things about you. And in my opinion, that is completely unacceptable behavior. Today, I messed up by continuously taking naps under my desk during work hours. But as you might guess, karma finally caught up to me as I got exposed by my manager and my entire team as they walked in to find me sleeping underneath my desk. And I've never been more embarrassed to be caught like that in my life. Here's what happened. So I'm a civil engineer and I work in the engineering industry, which is one of the complicated technical industries. Sometimes at night, I review work reports before submitting them the next day, and I have to make sure that everything is 100% correct and safe. I start reviewing late, maybe like 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I finish at about 4 o'clock a.m. Now, mind you, this is during some nights, especially when I'm dealing with a project with tight deadlines and it's very complicated. And the writing of reports are, of course, earlier, like maybe days earlier. Anyways, my office has a desk, and I've been taking naps under it for quite a while now. Actually, I moved the desk to a unique location, back in the corner of the office facing the door. Since I'm a civil engineer, my work also requires me to be outdoors. So on days when I spent the night reviewing, I come to the department manager and tell her that I'm going outside to check on projects, and she just gives me the green light. But what do I actually do? Well, I go to my office, I close the door, and then I take a nap. I have my pillow and blanket under the desk, and the desk is wide enough and big enough to take a nap there. Since it is a big city with traffic, assuming I'm outside, my naps are usually 30 to 40 minutes and sometimes even an hour long. Now, a lot of the time, my team looks for me because we work on group projects as engineers together, but they could never find me because I was taking naps, which in effect would slow down their work and their productivity. One day, my team was looking for me when I was taking a nap. They were looking for a project document that we work on, and that's when I heard them and my manager's voice. They entered my office and I could feel my face turning red underneath the desk. I was hoping that they would just leave. Unfortunately, the project documents were inside my desk drawer, so my team and the manager walked to check the drawer and I was exposed. Every single one of them looked disappointed, and I didn't know what to do. I just stared at them while I'm down at the desk. It was the most awkward moment of my life. The most disappointed person in the group was my department manager. All she said to me was, "My office now." In the end, she gave me a formal written warning and ended up assigning me additional responsibilities. But overall, this was seriously embarrassing and I still think about it to this day. That is seriously so funny to me. You not only got away with this for a while by being like, yeah, I'm gonna go outside for like an hour, but you also effectively like slowed down everybody else's work. So by doing this, you essentially brought everything to a boiling point and your exposure of sleeping under your desk was like inevitable at this point. But with that in mind, what kind of hours are you pulling? You work until 4 in the morning and these people are wondering like, oh wow, why are you sleeping under your desk? Like, these people are squeezing all the time out of you they can possibly get, and this job overall sounds like a really exhausting job. So the fact that your job would give you more work just as like some kind of punishment instead of getting to the root of the problem, that in my opinion is really weird and that just doesn't seem fair. So sure, you got in trouble for taking a nap at work, but for a little bit there, you actually pulled it off. And personally, I find that incredibly funny. My mom is blatantly trying to start drama by talking to my brother about debt that I apparently owe him. And honestly, given the track record of my mother, I am seriously honestly not surprised by her antics. Here's what happened. So I live in a house with my brother. My name and our mom's name is on the deed, and the way the deal was struck 2 years ago when we started this is that all three of us would move in together and expenses would be split 3 ways. My mom provided a little less than 50% of the cost of the house, and I got a mortgage for the rest in my name because I'm the only one with good credit. My brother fixed up the house, and he equated the work he did to around $10,000 if he was charging a stranger. I also paid $10,000 in materials, and at one point during construction, we all got into a screaming argument where mom and I threatened to kick my brother out, and he told us that we couldn't. I looked him in the eye and told him that I would pay him $10,000 for his work, and then I would kick him out. Well, he decided to not press his luck, and the construction continued. The intention was for mom to live there until she passes away, my brother to continue to rent the property forever, and me to eventually move on and buy another house. Well, my mom decided not to come and live with us, and then I started paying for work to be done. I was concreting the front walkway, getting gutters put on the house, we had plumbing and HVAC problems. I mean, the list goes on and on. I also do all the communal cleaning, and even cleaned his bathroom before I stopped and thought to myself, wait, why am I doing this? Honestly, it's not good for all of us to live together. I mean, we just don't mesh at all. I also didn't understand the impact of 2 mortgages on my lending capability, and I won't be able to get out without renting somewhere else for 5 to 10 years at least. We ultimately decided that he will be moving out, and he's now been looking for a few weeks. Well, he approached me last night and brought up the $10,000. Apparently, mom tried talking to him about it, and honestly, it took some effort to control my face. That money has been more than made up in his reduced rent over the last 2 years, and if anything, I thought that he would ask to take the fridge and washer that he brought with him, and I would offer to buy them off of him. My brother basically said that mom tried to talk to him about it, and he distracted her by changing the subject, but he did want to talk to me about it. It essentially boiled down to this. He said that he didn't want the $10,000. He said that we're family, and that you shouldn't take money from family. He said that he found a place and he wanted to move at least by the 7th, but he's trying to lock in the 1st of the year instead. So he then asked me if I would be willing to waive the rent for January and also let him keep his tools in the shed. I then asked him point blank if she was trying to get me to pay him, and he essentially responded that he cut her off because he couldn't hear the whole thing. Now, part of me thinks that this might have been a negotiation tactic to get me to agree, but to be honest, I already expected to waive a month's rent, give him an extended move-out period, and let him keep his tools in the shed. I also told him that he could keep his house key so that he can access this shed, and I also said that I would help him move. I have a lock on my bedroom door, and that's where I keep my valuables, so honestly, there's no worries about him getting into anything of value. He told me he would give me a copy of his new key for emergencies and replace a faulty bathroom light before he leaves. So thankfully, negotiations were successful. I have no idea if my mom was trying to start something else by bringing up that $10,000, but if she actually intended for me to pay it, she was absolutely insane. I mean, how wild is it to promise someone else's money to somebody else? I honestly wouldn't put it past her, because in the past, she has definitely prioritized him over me. Okay, so I have to agree with the original poster's suspicions here. It really does seem like the mom was trying to stir the pot. She clearly wanted some kind of drama in some kind of way, and it was really smart that the both of these kids basically saw through it and said, no, I don't want the money, let's not do that. So good for you for getting negotiations taken care of, because based on what you described, this seriously could have been a nightmare to deal with, but thankfully things were able to work out for the best, and nobody fed into any more unnecessary drama. An entitled, neglectful mother isn't paying nearly enough attention when their kid accidentally breaks the train door with their backpack, resulting in everybody in our trolley having to get off the train and find another means of transportation in the cold and rainy weather. And I've honestly never been more annoyed by an interaction in my life. Here's what happened. I had an encounter today that I simply had to share. So I was in a packed tram minding my own business when I noticed an entitled mother with her 3 kids in the same wagon. The scene was already set for a typical entitled parent story, but little did I know how much it would escalate. For reference, there are 2 types of trams where I live. The old type with small doors and high stairs, where wheelchairs and strollers are not allowed, and then we have the new ones which are accessible. Well, you guessed it, the entitled mom made it onto the old tram that I was on, even though the next accessible tram was just 5 minutes away according to the screens. Her kids were already whining disappointing and extremely unruly. The four of them, along with their huge stroller, occupied a significant part of the tram. It was 6 o'clock p.m. This is right when people were commuting, so the tram was packed with people returning home from work. And well, the situation was ripe for more entitled behavior, and trust me, it definitely delivered. The tram stops, and it's finally time for the kids and this entitled mother to exit. But just when I thought the worst was over, something else happens. One of the brats had a small shell backpack, which got stuck in the old, forcefully closing door. The conductor had to get out to try and free the trolley, and understandably, she was pretty angry about the situation. What blew my mind was the entitled mom's reaction. Instead of apologizing or taking responsibility, she started crying out, "I am a mother, I have 3 children," as if that somehow exempted her from being responsible for any damage caused to the tram. It was baffling how she played the mother card instead of acknowledging the inconvenience and potential harm caused by her and her kids. The situation left many of us in the tram shaking our heads in disbelief. Well, finally, the trolley gets unstuck, and the entitled mom and her posse left the train. But that's not the end of it. The best, or I should say the worst, was yet to happen. The door was now broken, and the tram could not continue its journey. So, thanks to the actions of this entitled parent, all of us had to disembark in the awful cold and rainy weather. There I was, forced to run through the rain just to make it to my appointment on time. The whole ordeal was frustrating to say the least, and a perfect example of how a dumb parent's entitlement can affect so many others. Besides, if her kid got stuck in the door instead, it could have turned out pretty ugly. Yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about, especially when you describe a parent who's basically just not watching their kids in a public setting. You would think that that would be the one place you would want those kids to behave and listen to you exactly. Because if you're not careful, then one of your kids might break the door and ruin everybody's day. And I know if I was in that situation, I seriously would have been frustrated. My entitled extended family is trying to blame me for my cousins blowing up some fireworks and as a result severely injuring their bodies. And now, even though I had nothing to do with any of their injuries, my family is expecting me to support them despite their bad attitudes and their dangerous activities. Here's what happened. Last year, my girlfriend and I decided to attend a family Christmas festivity despite more or less not really feeling like it, not to mention somewhat knowing better. And this is family on my side, by the way. It was my late mother who insisted we should go because the family had organized a big party. They would also provide dinner, and she figured that this would be a fun distraction for us. Also, because we never really went out for dinner that entire year, despite somewhat wanting to. Now, the event itself was more fun than I would have given it credit for. We had some fun interactions with some cousins and some of their spouses, and overall, we had a pretty good time. Well, that is until problems started during dinner. During said dinner, it got announced that there would be a huge firework display at the end of the party, all set up by 3 of my cousins, who I sometimes refer to as the firecrackers, because they are obsessed with fireworks, and I'm not really a fan, and I never have been. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being passionate about something and sometimes taking things a bit too far. As long as you keep things reasonable and at the very least mind others, then it should be fine. But unfortunately, I don't think they do that. You see, my cousin's hobby even made the local news a few times. One of the headlines read the following: 100 kilograms of illegal fireworks were confiscated from a house. Firework packs were even found under the bed. Yeah, so quote, obviously, the authorities had no clue what they were talking about, and obviously things were under control. The regulations were at fault, most surely not them. Several years ago, I once raised the question, but what if a fire would break out? To which I was told, yeah, that never happens. So yeah, no point in arguing with that level of ignorance. So after the announcement, the conversation during dinner went a bit towards the fireworks. Conversations went back and forth, and suddenly one of the spouses asked my girlfriend if we ever did something with fireworks, to which my girlfriend said no, but we did have a bit of an in-game fireworks tradition. When asked what she meant, my girlfriend explained that during New Year's Eve, we used to hack our Minecraft game so that the in-game clock would sync with the real-world time, during which we'd set up some in-game fireworks and effects, which would then launch during 12 a.m. sharp. And for the record, my girlfriend and I are both in our 50s. The woman who asked her was intrigued and thought it was a fun thing to do, but it got quickly met with snide, condescending comments from her husband. Minecraft? What in the world? That's a kid's game. How old are you two? Who are you to compare our work to that garbage? To which his wife immediately retorted by saying, Josh, that's not what she said. But this really started the beginning of the end. And that's when another obviously drunk cousin chimed in and said the following: you guys are pathetic. That has nothing to do with fireworks. I mean, how old are you? Now, at this point, I kind of lost my cool. Also, well under the influence, I felt no hesitation in snapping back. I said to them, being well beyond the age where children mock others for their hobbies seems an achievement not everyone here managed to accomplish. Well, when I said that definitely riled them up. It got even funnier when Josh told us that hobbies or not, it was still stupid to be playing kids games considering our age, to which I told him that in this kids game, some people even managed to build fully working 8-bit computers, to which my girlfriend told me to hush and keep my cool. She realized that I was getting quite tipsy, and things eventually did cool down a bit after that. Well, that is until another relative who's about 16 years old suddenly yelled out, "Oh my gosh, you weren't kidding. Would you look at this?" The guy had grabbed his phone and looked it up and came up with several YouTube videos. The funny thing here is that this guy was a grade A student and his parents were proud of him, and then he's the one to yell out in sheer admiration, which I did find a little bit funny. Now, for the record, the fireworks afterwards were fun to look at, no question about it, but the following loads of snide remarks afterwards made us decide to leave the party early. So anyways, fast forward, and 2 weeks ago, I got an email from an aunt of mine, which was odd because I never had much contact with that side of my family. Not before Christmas festivities last year, and most definitely not afterwards. As it turned out, my 2 cousins got into an accident and it was quite severe. They were hospitalized, and my aunt said I needed to call her to talk about visiting hours so that we could set up the schedule. Well, I ignored said email because I had zero interest in visiting them. Also, because it's an easy 2-hour drive, but even with all that in mind, I did send out an email of my own to wish them well. Then, about a week ago, I got a phone call. It was my aunt, and they said, "Why haven't you called me? Anyways, we set up the schedule without you. You need to visit the hospital Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday evening. We expect you there at 7:00 p.m. sharp. Don't complain about the time. That's your fault for not calling me." Well, I listened, and I couldn't help but plain laugh out loud. I said to them, "Yeah, good luck with that. You can count me out though," which was met with several rude remarks. How dare I turn my back on my cousins who obviously needed my support. I said to her, "Do they? Or is it you who is now trying to force a break for yourself?" Well, that definitely hit a nerve. As it turned out, my cousins were messing around with obviously illegal fireworks, and this is long before it's even legal to use that stuff, and it all literally blew up on them. I'm not going to go into much details for obvious reasons, but one is now missing a hand and the other is missing an eye. Those got lost in the process. And we're not talking about kids, by the way. We're talking about grown guys well into their 30s. 2 days ago, I got a new email, now telling me that the new schedule had been prepped and I'm expected to visit my cousin this upcoming Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday just to make up for the last week. This schedule was followed up by something I honestly never expected to see. They said the following: "It's all your fault this happened, you know, because people like you never believed in their amazing capabilities and always needed to talk down on them." I then sent an email back with a picture of the universal salute, if you know what I mean, and I then blocked all of the emails involved entirely. Yeah, that family's super weird. They seriously are trying to take the cousin's fault, even though some of them lost some body parts in the process. Like, clearly their obsession with fireworks was really not okay, because for once they finally took it too far, and then suddenly they lost body parts. Like, seriously, like, that is messed up. And it's really weird for everybody to be like, yeah, you gotta support your cousins and their activities, and also for the aunt to be like, this is your fault they blew themselves up. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I am not responsible for that. So with all things considered, I do feel bad for your cousins, but at the same time, like, I don't blame you for distancing yourself, because the way they're acting is like completely backwards, and in no way is it your fault that those 2 cousins blew themselves up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for wanting my wife to give up babysitting her niece for free and telling her sister that she needs to look for daycare come January? Here's what happened. So my wife quit teaching around 4 years ago for mental health reasons, and my wife has shown no real desire to get back into the workforce. It's not like we're struggling per se, but I would be lying if I said I did not miss the extra income from when my wife was working. About a year into her leave, her sister became pregnant, which did take up a large portion of her free time. So over the last 2 years, my wife has been babysitting her niece for around 12 hours a day, literally 3 days out of the week. She is stressed out, but does it because her sister claims she has no other option, and she cannot afford childcare. Even so, I don't think it's reasonable for my wife to do 12 hours a day for 3 days. So since my wife has not said anything for 2 years, I told my sister-in-law that come next year, she needs to go to daycare because I am not going to let my wife do what amounts to slave labor. My sister-in-law told me that it is not my place to say what my wife could or could not do. Now, I get this point of view, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't slightly upset that my wife can work 36 hours a week, 3 days a week for free, but claims that she is not ready to return to the workforce. That is a separate issue, but the core issue here is that my sister-in-law is taking advantage of my wife to provide free childcare, and I feel that is not okay. In the past, my wife did talk about pay, but my wife does not like to chase people for money, so since she never reminds them, they claim to always forget. Either way, I told my sister-in-law this is where we stand. My wife is upset with me since she claims it's not my place to say what she can and cannot do, and that it is not my place to tell others how she is feeling. Now, for clarity's sake, I did talk this over with my wife many times, and she is burnt out from watching her niece, but in her view, her sister has no other option. She has also expressed how babysitting over these years, combined with teaching, has killed all desire she once had for having children of her own. Now, as mentioned, my wife has spoken about pay, but since she does not like to chase people for money, she never gets any kind of money. She feels she should not have to remind people of money, and they should want to pay someone to help them, especially when it comes to family. She also is afraid her sister will become unstable if she loses her family support, and I stepped in because I was sick of her being taken advantage of. I did not just sidestep her, I have tried many times over these years to put her foot down, but she loves her niece and does not want to see her suffer. My point is that she is destroying her mental health just like when she was teaching. I was the one who encouraged her to quit because it was destroying her. All she did was wake up, go to work, come home, and go to sleep. It was a struggle to get her to eat sometimes. And the same thing is happening with her babysitting. Now, my wife is not doing this alone. When I get some time, I do take over the last 3 hours, and I drop the kid off at her mother's when she gets off work. We also provide food and child supplies such as diapers and pull-ups, and my wife is also potty training my niece. She is more or less raising her niece 3 days out of the week. Now, in terms of solutions to this problem, I have spoken to my boss today to adjust my schedule, and while nothing can be done for January, come February, I will be allowed to work remotely for the month. During this time, I will be taking my wife on a long vacation. It's not perfect, but for US jobs, requesting 2 weeks vacation on such short notice is not ideal. Tonight, I'm going to take my wife out to explain everything. I got the idea from a friend to take her to a place that she could never turn down, and the theory is that during this time, my sister-in-law will be forced to figure something else out. Now, if it turns out my wife is unable to break away from her fear of guilt, then at that time, I will have to figure out what I'm going to do personally. As stated, yes, I do miss the income my wife brought in, as it did make things a bit easier. But that being said, the income at this point is the lowest priority. I can live with her not working if she is doing something that she truly enjoys. I'm willing to support her because I do love her, but I am not willing to support her sister, especially since she has done nothing to change her circumstances. I mean, if she was trying to change her situation by going to school or getting a better job, I would be annoyed, but I would understand my sister-in-law would need the help. But as it is, I hope to have some kind of breakthrough with my wife. Yeah, it really does seem like your wife is kind of like burning the candle from both ends, and it really does seem like the sister-in-law in this situation is taking advantage of your wife. Here's the thing, if she's taking care of that kid for 3 days out of the week, she absolutely should be paid for it. And even though your wife doesn't like confrontation when it comes to getting paid, she still deserves to get paid just like anybody else. And also, I don't think you're the jerk for stepping in and trying to help your wife out. With the additional explanation that the original poster provided, he made it abundantly clear that he has tried everything else with helping his wife. I mean, he is now even changing his schedule around just to work remotely to try and help her out. So I think that was kind of like a last-ditched effort to be like, hey, this has got to stop, because his wife is clearly just going to let this keep going, and he really was, in my opinion, doing the best thing possible to try and help her out. So no, I don't think the original poster's a jerk, and hopefully all of this works out. And I hope your wife is able to see that yes, the sister-in-law in a pinch can find somebody else to help out. And hopefully that's enough of a breakthrough for her to realize that she doesn't have to do this no matter what. Am I the jerk for not depositing a Christmas check I received as a gift from my parents? Because right now, my dad is furious for not doing it right away, and he is even claiming that this has damaged our relationship. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. happened. I'm a 29-year-old female, and for Christmas, I received a very generous check from my parents. I wasn't expecting it, and they never spend this much on gifts, so it took me by surprise. Not to give exact numbers, but it was 4 digits. And I was very grateful, and I thanked them for their generous gift. Everything was great until the day after Christmas. My dad would come up to me multiple times and asked if I deposited the check. I told him that I would and that I could deposit it through my banking app. Well, the day goes on and I forget to deposit the check. The 27th comes along and I get home from work and my dad gets on me again and asked if I deposited the check. I told him no and he seemed annoyed, and he once again told me that I need to deposit the check. Well, as you can probably guess, the day ends with me again forgetting to deposit it. Now it's today, the 28th, and my mom texted me while I'm at work asking if I deposited the check. I told her no, and she must have told my dad because he started angrily texting me. He said to me, "I asked you to do something and you didn't do it. I'm so upset with you, it's not even funny. This is a total disrespect of me and your mother. I requested that you deposit that check and you didn't. You know we did this because we love you, and you turn around and not deposit it like I asked. I'm so upset right now. Just give me the check and I'll deposit it into your account if you're that lazy. So ungrateful." Now, I was shocked when I read that while at work, and I'm not gonna lie, it hurt a lot. I spent most of my lunch break in tears trying to think of a response. I love my dad a lot, but I felt like his anger was out of line and needlessly malicious. Unfortunately, while my dad is loving most of the time, he does have moments of anger just like this. He never gets physical or anything like that, but it is very loud. Eventually, I texted him back and I said the following: "Hi Dad, I'm sorry that this has made you upset. It's not that I'm ungrateful, I guess I just don't understand why this needs to be deposited right away, especially since it hasn't even been a week since I received your very generous gift. I love you very much and I don't want this to damage our relationship. So I think it's no longer appropriate for me to accept this check. I'll give you the check back when I get home." Now, I thought that this was the best and most mature way to reply. Maybe he'll calm down or something like that, right? Well, no, unfortunately, it only gets worse. He replied back by saying the following: "Well, when I tell you to do something, I want it done. When your mom asks you to do something, you do it. Now, I want you to deposit that check today or I will disconnect your internet. I asked for the simplest thing and you can't even give me that. I have my reasons for wanting the check cashed. You should honor my wish. As far as I'm concerned, this has damaged our relationship." Now, I've since deposited the check like he asked, but I'm really confused here. Am I really in the wrong or is he blowing this out of proportion? What should I do? So in my opinion, it kind of seems like everybody sucks in this scenario. For starters, there's no excuse for the original poster not depositing the check. Like literally, you have the mobile app. You could have taken care of that literally in seconds. Like that is not that hard. Like the moment he asked you about this on Christmas, you could have pulled your phone out and the check and said, "Oops, my bad, let me deposit it real quick." And then you could have gotten it done right then and there. But you kept kicking this can down the road for like no reason, and now your dad's freaking out on you. Now, it sounds like they gave you a couple $1,000s, and I don't know about you, but I would not want a check like that sitting in limbo and not deposited already. But on the flip side, the way your dad is acting is completely insane. I can understand him being upset and being like, "Listen, you gotta deposit the check, like get this done." He most likely wants that deposited before the end of the year, probably for like tax purposes or something like that. But for him to seriously say, "Oh, this damaged our relationship," like that is just straight up weird. Also, for him to give you an ultimatum and be like, "Ooh, if you don't deposit it, I'm gonna cut off your internet," which also, as a side note, the original poster lives with their parents. So to make that kind of comment is like, whoa, wait a second, that is definitely inappropriate. And I know if I was living with my parents and they made those kind of like veiled threats, I would probably start looking for another place to live almost immediately. Like that was just completely uncalled for, and it's like a really weird punishment to give to your 29-year-old daughter. So hopefully you depositing this check somehow like fixes this scenario, because yes, you really should have deposited that like right away, but also your dad's reaction is completely uncalled for. My girlfriend is cheating on me right now in this very minute, and after trying to have some kind of conversation with her, I'm now convinced that I've lost my girlfriend and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend of about 2 years has been with me since we first met at a party at university. My girlfriend is 22 and I am 24 years old. Just 1 week after meeting her, she already moved in with me. It was love at first sight. Around a year ago, we moved into a new apartment, which I couldn't afford by myself, and we lived there pretty happily ever since. Skip to last Monday on Christmas, and we were at her father's place with all of her family. Things were fine until we drove home. She suddenly told me that she had had enough of me being mean to her. Now, the example that she gave me was when I accidentally walked into her laptop's charging table, which is this white cord, and it was stretched over a white carpet in a dimly lit room. Now, I did not apologize for ripping it out of her laptop, but instead accused her of why she would even place a cable like that in the first place. But after a few minutes, I did end up apologizing. She also told me that she does not want to stop my dreams and aspirations. For reference, I would like to move to another country after I'm done with university, but she does not want to do that. She then told me that she wants a break from our relationship. Well, I drove home and I told her that being with her is my biggest goal in life, and that I'm sorry for having been mean to her, and that I am willing to change, but she still wanted the break. That night, we still slept in the same bed, but I cried myself to sleep. Now, I really don't think that I've been mean to her. I think the main problem is that around 1 year ago, I got a job at university at cancer research. We are very successful at this, and we try to use a novel, highly successful approach. Because my father, who is my best friend, has cancer, I think I spent too much time on work and not enough time with her. For the last few months, I sometimes went to university at around 8 o'clock in the morning and only came back at around 11 o'clock p.m. for a week or so. She was alone at our home and probably very lonely. Anyways, Tuesday, I wanted to visit my father, but my girlfriend told me that she wanted to visit her mother. Her mother is on the way to my father, so I offered to give her a ride there, but she declined. She did not come home that night and told me that she would like to sleep at her mother's place. The next day, she told me that she may not come home that night as well. I told her that's fine and she can stay at her mom's place for as long as she likes. She did actually come home though, and we watched a movie together, but she was distracted by her phone, which she was looking at, and it was making her giggle from time to time. In fact, only a few minutes ago, I found out that she did in fact not sleep at her mother's place, but instead went to some guy she knows from university. That night we went to bed together, and I tried to approach her, but she distanced herself from me, so I only caressed her until she fell asleep. Well, we're now at today. In the morning, I baked fresh buns just for her, but she told me she has a meeting with her sister and only took a few with her and then left. I cleaned the house to make her feel happy when she would come back home, but at around 11 o'clock p.m., I was concerned and I called her mother, asking if my girlfriend is still at her place, because she would not answer me. Her mother told me that she has not been at her place since we both left from there. She said that maybe he's at some guy's place by the name of Logan. Logan is not his real name, because Logan and my girlfriend drank coffee together a few weeks ago, and she thought that I knew about that. Just after the call, my girlfriend actually came home. I asked her who Logan is, and she told me that she actually slept at his place last Monday. She only packed a brush and some other things, and then wanted to leave again. I asked her where she wanted to go now, and if they had spent quality time together, if you know what I mean, and she told me no, and that she would go to her father's place now. I told her though, if she leaves, then it's completely over. And you know what? I still remember the blank look in her eyes. She did not care at all. It felt like all we have ever been through together suddenly did not matter to her. She just took her stuff and left. A minute later, I wanted to run after her, but she was already gone. I just don't know what to do now. I really love her a lot. I cannot believe that this happened. I feel like my entire world has fallen apart. What should I do when she inadvertently comes back? We share an apartment together after all, and most of the stuff here is hers. I neglected all my friends to only be with her. I feel like this is all my fault because I did not give her enough affection. I already told her that I will reduce my workload because I just finished my research, but even then, I don't know if I could ever trust her again. What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, you need to understand that this is not your fault. You did not cause her to cheat on you. That's crazy in my opinion, and seriously, I don't think there's a good enough excuse for that. And yes, I do think that what she's doing is cheating. Even though on Christmas Day, she's like, I think we should take a break. I'm kind of convinced based on her actions that she was talking to Logan well before she wanted to have a break. And by the way, she's probably only making up excuses as to why she wants a break, so she can try and have some kind of like alibi as to why she broke up with you, but also so she can feel less guilty about cheating on you. Like, I really don't think there's anything you could have done more to prevent her from cheating. Like, that's a very clear line in the sand of like, okay, let's not do that. But it seems like she broke that cord off a long time ago, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would just struggle to ever trust her ever again. So I'm really sorry that you're dealing with this. This seriously sounds awful, because her actions are just super sketchy, and you truly did not deserve this in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.